You ironed it, didn't you?
No, I don't know where.
You just don't wear it.
It's actually
iron
one of the best.
Iron work. Look at that, right?
Well, I'm going
Nothing else. I'm inspired. It's the first time I've ironed clothes probably. Oh yes.
I guess things are right now.
You look at it, it's right.
I look like they should have matched.
I might wear my glasses.
Cool. So,
And I can't iron.
I was just gonna say we are live now. So, yeah.
I think that makes me mad.
Yeah. That was more what the warning was for than anything. Yeah. I'm not filming you guys specifically yet, but yeah.
One thing about doing iron palm.
No.
Hey everybody, people are just coming in, so we're going to get started in a few minutes.
Jazz hands.
Jazz hands.
No. Say my shirts and coats. You got small shoulders.
See how big the delay is.
Horse stance.
Yeah, you have to look like you're in a thriller. You have to look like you're in thriller.
Yeah, I had to go and buy new pants actually.
Like, these aren't fitting, what? They're fitting last week. Oh wait, last week's was tight.
It makes that much difference that quickly. Sometimes, well, it's already taken. Like, some of my clothes were already taken. I had black on the edge,
It's not moving. It'd be cold.
And yeah, it's starting to get uncomfortable. It's like, and it's like,
Sorry.
No, that's okay.
I was gonna bring mine and I thought, I don't need it.
I've got multiple different types, so if my block charger's not working, we'll just use the actual power
Well,
source.
you know what? I think it's just the phones as soon as they go outside, right?
They don't like the cold.
They don't at all.
And you know what's really ironic? The first like CDMA cell phones were actually made here.
Really?
Yeah, so
But yet they can't function in
they can't seem to
cold.
figure out how our environment works. Yeah.
Thank you so much.
No problem.
Tyler started cutting everything out.
doing this now.
Oh yeah?
Check upstairs.
I went into this room where I had to drill some holes.
These guys are like,
And went down there. Turns my back and the box. Or no,
I mean, it's like a big thing for dealing with fatigue.
Oh yeah, you should see me a couple of days ago. I was just crying sandwiches.
Yeah, no, yes. You went to jet lag?
It was a big deal. Keep that around. Obviously, it's fine.
Yeah, it's not actually.
Yeah, but it's first thing I gotta get on.
Yeah, no, this was the short before. Oh, I know, yeah.
Thanks, Mo.
I don't trust you, right? So
I had bought it for myself. Never
No.
to use it. My kid. I'm looking for to use it. It was like $5.
I wanted to have a good chance.
So we get it really cheap. They were buying it first. It's all the same. It came upside down. Did you remember?
That's it.
Other people contemplate.
Yeah.
Brutal to get out there because they were so heavy.
Okay, I didn't know.
Don't be modest.
If you want to
Yeah, maybe.
You got another one?
Oh, yeah.
Here's your chance. As if you're going to
No, I don't have any of the information that you're going to convey.
You're just going to say
bullshit.
you're going to say you are going to do it because
Jared has asked me, because Jared makes me do this, to say that we're running a little behind waiting for some of the masters to arrive. So there will be demonstrations and such soon. Stay tuned.
So there's like a 60-second delay. This should be pretty good.
Oh good, I get to watch it.
I'd like to watch that.
See, that seems right.
I wouldn't want to misrepresent this.
That would probably be a mistake.
And then at the very end too, when you gave me the look, all they could see is like your flank at that moment where you're looking like so there's like a short pod. Oh, it's great. I love it. Maybe I should just turn the camera around and just film you sitting there all night.
Hashtag stoicism.
Go visit your friends. Yeah. I know that, but go make some.
Jared, you're supposed to tell me you're my friend.
But I'm not.
To prop up my fragile ego.
James, I'll pretend to be your friend.
Thank you.
I love how all of this is getting broadcast.
Genuine companionship. I think it's covered once in a while.
No.
That's
All these students are just are regular students, so we're almost there. Coming down. And there's a
That's why you got to write your notes before they speak.
Yeah, absolutely. This is all getting filmed.
Is this running on a delay?
There's always a delay on Marvel. Yeah.
Is Jack coming?
No, I asked him if he was going to live, but I'm sorry.
We have a lot of places, so that's
As soon as Sammy gets here, we'll. He's on his way.
Yeah. That's the last time.
Special appearance from
Unfortunately,
Tiger Monk.
a couple of cats.
locksmiths. Dominic's all over again. But anyways, yeah, take one stuff. Call your sleeve and I'll take it back here. We'll just train. Just call her. Oh, really? Oh, yeah.
That's that one.
As soon as I saw the beard.
Why did that work? I'm embarrassed.
Is that an actual gym?
Do it again.
He's the tech guy. He's the closest one.
All right, so the official
That's the camera.
Why is that shut? It's about a 30-second delay.
Oh, 30-second delay.
Yeah.
Alright.
So very soon we'll see your
Jazz hands.
Your jazz hands. Hello. Would you like to sign in, please?
No.
She fits right
in. Oh, yeah. You can tell that.
No soup for you.
You can tell she's family. Yeah.
Oh, there. Yeah, there. Okay. Yeah. Jazz hands.
I have to spell and everything. It's just, you know.
You don't have to spell. You just have to, type things correctly.
Do you need my phone number?
No, I do not need your phone number,
Okay.
but I do need your email.
My email.
Yeah, because it's a required field.
Okay.
No, I'm not being rude.
Go. There you go.
That's it.
Alright.
Oh yeah, so find a seat. We're going to get started soon. We're just waiting for Sammy to get here. So,
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
Oh. It started to snow.
yeah, I saw.
Not my favorite.
You're also live on camera.
And then it was like, I want to keep people up, so let's take a fight with teenagers.
Jesus.
Yeah, so this is the space.
The fight night, all the teenagers would sit down.
That's why you're on camera.
Oh my God.
Yeah, that was from before. See, it's lagging.
It's a 30-second delay, yeah.
It's lagging, it's lagging. Oh. Oh, God. Oh. Looks like you've got a few people out anyways. Good, good.
We're broadcasting live, so people will be able to watch online.
So what's the plan for tonight?
Just a few demonstrations and then a lesson on breathing, Tai Chi breathing, and then we're going to have the panel discussion, tea with the masters.
Okay.
Which is where we'll serve tea and do a few other things. And
you know what?
I hope I didn't screw things up. Let's find out here. I know in a few moments if I wreck things or not. No, I think I'm okay. I'm good. It's still recording. I just can't go change any settings.
You can't change any settings?
I talked to somebody and be like, oh, I gotta go get so-and-so. Who's actually from here?
Oh, yeah. I want to see one. Yeah, I think you should do one.
People trouble.
You tell me how to kill me? Yes, I know. Shut your That's why it's best to shut up. It is not. Flaming meat sandwich. Come on. Casey order a cheeseburger in China.
That's what people.
How long are you here for?
I'm here. My call sign shares my call sign. So my dad was like, how long do you want to? That's my call sign.
And I forgot to print off the stuff from the questions.
That's okay. We're gonna make it up.
Oh, yeah.
Hey, we've known each other for years. Like,
Yeah, no, we're sending on Yeah, I know, right? Well, when I was in university, my mom and dad.
I'm not getting it for free, no matter what. Just saying. Mind you, I have some tattoos that probably are close to cheap.
One of those things. Qigong.
Scarification.
I always wanted to get that done before.
I'm kind of
You spend the afternoon part
Just to populate these, when Sammy gets here and everything gets going, sit in all those chairs.
Yeah, right. And then you find one of the brochure. So
And there's stuff over there if you want to have a drink or water or anything.
Yeah. No, it's not out.
There's a washroom there.
Right there?
It's in the corner.
Around the corner there?
That's better.
That's what I thought. I just didn't want to, pass it into wrong.
That's my plan.
So what are we?
We're just waiting for Sammy to get here.
Okay. Cool. I know.
Yeah, sure. That's your name. So he's going to do martial arts demonstration? Oh, for sure. Let's do it. Let's do it. Are you going to do a demonstration? I don't even know that was the place.
Yoga flows.
Well, then none of
Yoga
Would I have shit for it on a wedge? That works too. Yeah, what? You can't ship up.
They call
My dad and my nephew had a good day.
What? No.
Had a property jersey.
I guess it's good I didn't yell this time. Okay, good. So you got this look on my face?
Good, we're just waiting for Sammy.
Yeah, we're Sammy, right? Do you know how many people are doing it right now?
Right now we have 50 people watching.
Oh, that.
Oh no, the number's going down. It's also because there's nothing going on.
You just wanted to hear the refrain.
Well, no, but yes, yeah. It's cold outside, yeah.
Oh, crap. Oh, it's supposed to get nicer next week. I don't know.
Oh, one guy.
He's live.
Oh, that's the group.
The bathroom's in the back corner. No, it'll be okay. Yeah, so I can just.
Is it mostly instructors here tonight?
Right now,
Yeah.
more people show up. But.
Friday night might be a little harder because people are coming from work, but maybe tomorrow. Yeah.
No, he did not.
Speaking of which, that gives me reminds me of a question I have. Jesse, the other gentleman that wasn't able to make it during the dinner, he's still working on his hours for getting his certification as a teacher or whatnot. I don't know how things work with teachers and lineage and whatnot, but would he be able to earn hours under you here, or should he stay underneath his own teacher? How does that work?
I don't know, it depends, because I'm certified through the Yoga Alliance, right? But not Canada, I'm through the US,
Gotcha, okay.
right?
Yeah.
Which doesn't matter, because I can teach anywhere in the world, so if he can get hours with me, then absolutely.
Because that's his main concern was I want to get involved, but until he's trying to be traditional, he was I don't have my hours, so I'm not technically I'm not allowed to teach outside of my teacher yet. So I just wanted to see if that's an option.
If you can, I've had lots of people who under me for my fitness certifications.
Okay.
I've got about 6 different fitness certifications too.
Okay.
Do you know if he's doing his through the AFLC or who's he?
That'll have to find out.
So, if he's doing it through the AFLC, they might let him mentor under me, because I've had other people mentor under me before, so for sure.
I'll ask him if that's something his teacher would be interested in entertaining, because the sooner we can get him in here to help out, and the sooner he can come in and teach his stuff, because he does it as well, so that's what he's learning.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
Cool beans.
Definitely.
And I unplugged for just a short period of time, so I I can charge up the laptop.
It's coming anyway.
Up to a half charge now.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure.
Cool beans.
That was British hairstyle. Well, that's all the British.
The really good ones, like when you drink it, it's like really, like a little bit sweet and like water. Like it has no aftertaste. Wow, I've never had it. Yeah, it's like all the times when Josh is constantly.
Is it boom there?
We have like a bunch of like.
Eventually, yeah. Actually, we have
I don't know
a gimbal,
about
but I didn't bring it because it's one of the many things I forgot.
Well, sure.
Yeah, the gimbal's really neat because it's a fully powered 3-axis gimbal.
Okay, my phone's about to die. See you later.
Yeah, we started with almost nothing. Yeah, well, I mean, you guys started it all. This started with nothing else but the phones. That's a long.
So revisiting some of the old models stuff.
Yeah. All of this is your fault.
Sorry. So technically, the stress of the tech stuff. I'll have a cheaper.
Well, actually,
That's gonna be so awkward.
I'm a celiac vegan. Can you make me a burger? I'm a celiac vegan. Can you make me a burger, please?
No. You took all of the ingredients out that make it a burger. You're just having some random sandwich. To be fair, I have only because I've developed love for iceberg lettuce. No man, no, I actually had a taco with an iceberg instead of a shell for the first time 6 months ago. People have done it before. I didn't do it for me, and I was
That's why that's in there. For example, contracts. Someone has to read it. Someone has to read it. Someone has to interpret it. If you read something. Wow.
You want to be a flower?
What are you looking at? We should get started. Well, you're going to introduce yourself and welcome everybody.
Okay, so Jared's staring at me so that we get something started. So I'm going to stand over here and talk.
No.
So that the live studio guys can't see anything.
No.
Just so everybody knows.
Sorry to disappoint you, though.
Jared is our community manager and our tech genius.
I wouldn't go that far.
Neither would I normally. But,
Yeah.
fine. This is being broadcast live, so if you don't want to be on the internet,
Oh, what the?
then yeah, that's it. Mike's out of here. okay, you got your clothes on this time.
Nobody has to go here for liability reasons.
So if you don't want to be broadcast, stay away from the red either. I guess I'm standing over here.
Stand over there.
I'm supposed to stand over there. Anyway, thanks for coming. There's just a few people still on their way, but they'll straggle in as we move forward. We're going to do a few demonstrations to celebrate our opening, and then people who have never seen us before, all 3 or 4 of you, can see what's up. And we're going to have a panel discussion tonight with, I was going to say all the teachers, but there's a lot of teachers. So I'm going to say all the teachers.
Why don't you introduce those teachers?
But I'm going to introduce us all first. Yeah. So I'm going to start with me, I guess, since I'm the one talking. My name is Neil Ripsky. I started training martial arts in 1986. And Red Jade has been my Kung Fu school for a long time. I started it in 99. So this year will be the 20th anniversary. November 2nd, I think our class was, of 99. You actually remember that?
I used to have little t-shirts.
Oh, yeah. Jesse was one of the very first people to ever come, actually. The 8 Shadows. Yeah. Yeah, so that was when I started teaching, was in November. So that will be our 20th anniversary. And most of the population of this room is, if you don't know everybody here, you'd be kind of shocked at how many martial arts are actually already in this place. So I think we'll start off with the biggest badass in the room, Stacy. You can zoom in on Stacy. Stacy came all the way from Preston, BC, where I was teaching, and now you're broadcast on the internet. There you go. You're on the internet. Yeah, she's a Xingyi practitioner. Xingyi Liuhe. She does Bear and Eagle Fight for Survival and the 10 Animals. And she used to, I was telling people earlier, but she used to come to the Tai Chi class, but it was too full of old people. So then she started coming to the Kung Fu classes, but you know, everybody was kind of wussy. So then she came to the fight nights to beat up everybody. And then fight nights started to get very quiet when Stacy showed up. So that was good. That was very, very good. So yeah, let's talk. Who else is here? I'm going to do just, you know, a bunch of instructor type people first. So I'm just going to go around the room. James, don't move. You're next. That's James. He's here to do full-time practice. But James is also going to be opening up his own Tai Chi class soon, back at home in London. The not the real London, the one James was at.
The Canadian London, yeah.
Stop it! I didn't sign a consent form for this.
Yeah, you did.
Oh yeah, it's all on the papers.
Now you can hit me.
So this is Jesse. Jesse's one of my very first students. He was at that class, I think, November 2nd, 1999. Long ago, when he was but a young man.
In high school.
Yeah, and all I'm going to say really cool about Jesse was he once did a demonstration where he kicked through a cow femur with his leg, and that's how he got his name, Iron Leg Jesse.
Jesse. The only femur strong enough to break other femurs.
Exactly. Next to him is Mo. Sifu Mo is going to be teaching Tai Chi here at this location. He's been training with me since... Perfect time. How long? I don't even remember. 2004? Maybe?
About that.
Something like that. But he's a very powerful Chen practitioner and loves Xingyi Liuhe as well. Next to him is our special guest who flew in all the way from Winterpeg to somewhere just as cold. This is why I'm not supposed to be the speaker, right? That's Kelly, Sifu Kelly. And Kelly is my brother from another mother. We've been talking online for literally years. And we kind of figured that one day we should get into the same room so that we can mess around and trade ideas. Kelly's a Bagua master, Taiji master, Xingyi Liuhe master, among other things, and super cool guy. And he's actually staying for a few days to share with us all of his knowledge, and he's going to be on the panel tonight with us too. And then we have Tamara, who's our yoga teacher here for this location. And she's going to be coming, I think, once a week right now, although we're trying to get more than that. And you're going to do yin yoga, and we're going to try to get her to do kettlebells, because everybody needs to suffer. Well, I mean, it's good for your health. That's it. So, who else should we? I'm introducing everybody. I don't care.
Yeah, that's
Damien. Come on out so the camera can see you, so it's not on me. Damien runs Red Jade in Chicago. He's the instructor down there, the leader there. I'm going to make this quicker, otherwise I'm going to talk all night.
No, that's the point.
Oh,
This is the one time you're allowed to, yeah.
No problem. Really?
Yeah, you can talk now. Yeah.
Damien has more tattoos than I do. How's that? That's interesting. Yeah, so Damien is the reason I started teaching online, actually. You, if I remember right, you had a DVD. Like back in the old days.
I had your first books too.
Oh, I mean, they're really good. Really? Did you? I didn't know that. So when did you contact me? Do you remember?
I ordered your Mantis book, and I never got it. Like, it never arrived, so I emailed you, and you sent me a DVD.
That seems right. Hey! Yeah, okay. And so you never got one?
Oh, no, I got it like, with a DVD. Like, you sent me the DVD and the book.
Oh, I'm sure good. I'm a nice guy.
And then we talked for like an hour on the phone.
Did we?
Yeah.
Weird. Were you freaked out? Oh, fine. Anyway, yeah, so Damien started emailing me back and forth, and we started doing, like, exchanging videos for one another and all sorts of stuff. So it's been, like, years now, probably close to 10 years.
10 years.
Is it 10 years? You're really old now, then. And now, yeah, he runs a club in Chicago. So that's really cool. And we went down there and did a workshop last year. Last year. Under a bridge in Chinatown. It was perfect. And then we have Danny. Danny runs Red Jade in McHenry, Illinois. Yeah. Right? Okay. I never remember which side of the border you're on. Danny's been training martial arts forever. Like how long? I mean, what years?
Almost 2 decades now.
Yeah, pretty close to 20 years, yeah. And he's practiced all kinds of different things. And eventually got a hold of me to try to learn some drunken boxing. So then eventually he came up here and I tried to talk him out of it. And that's gone fairly well so far. But yeah, now he runs classes down in McHenry. And you guys are like, what, 3 hours apart or something?
Yeah, something like that.
And they had never met, so they both flew to Edmonton to do that. So that's good.
Thought it'd make it easy.
Exactly. You know you're not getting out of this, Steve, right? Sifu Steve, who's in the back, is also one of the instructors here at this location for Red Jade. Sifu Steve's been training martial arts longer than most people have been alive. And he's going to be running Southern arts classes. He's a Southern arts master, so he does all kinds of stuff like white eyebrow and Feng Ying. See, I'm not the Southern guy, I don't know. He does all kinds of other stuff for beating people up. He's also a Qigong practitioner, and he's trained with Ken Cohen, if you know that name, the really famous Qigong master. And yeah, he's happily sharing with all of us. So that'll be really cool. He's going to have classes. Who else is here? Do you want me to leave you alone?
Grant plus up the other front.
No, that's cool. Do you want me to leave you alone? I will. All right. So Mark's here. Because I knew Mark didn't want me. Mark flew all the way from England to come and paint. All right, Mark. He trains Kung Fu over there and came over to start doing full-time with me a few years ago. Super cool. And Mike isn't getting out of it, so. Mike, yeah. Why don't you get on camera, Mike?
Just for 2 seconds.
Yeah, sure.
It'll be just a little quick.
Mike started training with me when I moved the school into Edmonton, which was like, I don't even know when.
Literally 2 seconds.
Yeah.
I'm going to just be cool about it and just say Mike is a Wing Chun master and should be teaching here. And he's also a Sanda free fighting teacher. He's been training and fighting in Ireland for the last few years, and he should be teaching here, given
Not
the
fighting,
opportunity.
Training to
fight.
Yeah.
Do you want to train more fighters?
I want to actually fight over there.
Oh, no, I know you want to fight, but you should train more fighters here.
I'm not
See,
qualified.
this is good because you got all this pressure, all these people.
Okay.
Okay. He also competed and won in the World Championships in 2005, I think it was. Was that when you went to Germany?
2005, yeah.
2005, yeah. Super cool. And he brought us back, actually, the General Guan that's sitting on the altar.
Really?
That's the one, yeah.
Jesus.
I wasn't sure if you realized that. Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And who else is here? Grant's here. Grant's here from Jin Long Gong Fu. He's a Wing Chun teacher who came out from Ontario and trained in Hong Kong and did all Wing Chun kind of stuff there. He also trained with one of my teachers as well, so we're brothers in a certain way. One of my other Kung Fu brothers is also here, but he doesn't want me to talk about him, so I'm not going to because he's tough. But I'm really happy he's here too. Did I miss anybody? Does anybody need to hear anything else? Wow, it got quiet. Cool. So, why don't we do a couple of things, and then we'll do our panel discussion. Sound all right?
Sure.
How long of a demo do you guys want? 30 seconds, 20 minutes? What?
All of martial arts.
We have Dan here.
Oh,
Yeah, like, Danny's an encyclopedia, so we could keep you guys busy for hours. Yeah.
We'll do it alphabetically. Alphabetically, let's start with Danny. Hey, that's good. He didn't know he was doing a demo. That makes it even better.
Yeah.
Oh, and he's got that shirt on.
Yes, I do.
Yeah. I think Jared's got to explain that.
With the shirt, there's not much to explain. We just happen to sell Miracle Kung Fu Tonic that removes bruises, abrasions, and other sorts of skin-related issues. Yeah. Some people just call it Jiao, but...
Some people call it... Some other people call it Chairman Ripsky's Miracle Kung Fu Tonic.
Yeah.
What are you going to do, Dan?
Are you going to move all
What do
the
you
shit
feel like
from my
doing?
living room to here?
Yes.
I'll do my form.
Yeah, do your form.
I'll do my form. Okay. You do your form.
I'll do that form.
I'm going to talk through your form. What Danny's doing is a form that he's put together, which is his test for Black Sash. And the idea was to put everything that he had learned up to this point into one place where he could practice it.
Wow, everybody's really glancing. How many moves are in it?
Over 100? Yeah, for sure.
Cool. I guess it's your turn.
It's not my turn.
Sure it is.
It's Mo's turn, obviously.
Oh, it's Mo's turn. All right,
He's
then.
getting up. Damien, can you do one for me? Steve?
Seems to have perfect timing.
Like I said, Mo's going to be one of our Tai Chi teachers. Ooh.
Here's good.
Cotton sole shoes even. Shrug would be very proud. I hope he walks in during this. Who should be next? You want to go next? Cool. Okay, Sifu Steve's gonna do, I don't know what he's doing. Immortal Flex. Immortal Flex. What you gonna do, Damien?
Do a little bit of Chen.
Okay. Not some drunken boxing? Not yet. So yeah, Damien runs a school in Chicago, in Pilsen. And honestly, what's kind of cool, he and I have only been in the same room like less than a dozen times. Kind of like a lot of Damien's skill is to like his mind and how hard he works. I have little to do with it. I just yell at him now. On the side streets. No, I'm good. Sure.
No.
You want to go, Kelly?
I'll go.
No. So as I said before, this is Sifu Kelly. He came from Winnipeg. Be with us for a few days. And he knows a lot of Bagua. Multiple systems of it.
If you can, yeah.
Are you ready? Who needs the money? Are you ready? For another demo? You want to do something for us? Cool, do something else for us. Whatever that means. Just tell us whatever. Hey Kelly, let's say something.
That was junk. Some chung.
Yeah, it's a group of relatives with that chung. Oh yeah, do chung, yeah. Here. I'm doing a Chen demo.
Okay.
Then maybe I'll do some.
Okay.
Where am I doing it? Here? I'll just do that here. Or should I do that way? Oh, okay. So Danny's gonna do something. What you gonna do?
Grab your sword?
Sweet.
Do you want a sword?
Yes, please.
Oh.
You know which one I like. Yeah. Drunken boxing. Nice set, Danny.
Might be able to get into the breathing.
Yeah, okay. Okay, so I'll do one more. My teacher, Chen Ximing, was coming tonight, but he's a Chinese doctor, and there was a scheduling conflict here. He has a patient right now, I think, actually. So unfortunately, he's not going to attend, but he told me what he was going to teach for the breathing workshop, so I'm going to pass that on. And at Jared's suggestion, I'm going to do the set of 18 Lohan that he taught me. I'll do it really fast, because it's really slow otherwise.
Well, like medium fast.
Medium fast like this?
That's almost too slow.
That's why I'm saying fast.
No, I know, yeah.
It's got to be fast. There's the fast. So now what? Are we all done with demonstrations? Everybody bored yet?
Oh, you can never be bored with demonstrations.
Oh. Well, anybody want to do a weapon set?
You don't think I do a little bit of 40 sorry.
Like 15 of it.
Oh yeah, no, not the whole thing.
Yeah.
No.
Because now more people are arriving. Hey, Connor! Oh, hey. Connor's here.
Oh, Connor arrived, did he?
Hey, Connor.
Oh, hey.
Good to see you, Connor.
Oh, what's up, bud? Oh, not much. She goes, eh? Oh yeah. Pitter patter, eh?
Oh, how's it going, eh?
Not bad, Joe. Those are all done up on the suds already.
Just in time for your demo.
Oh, perfect.
I didn't touch the walls.
It's okay, you're a case, you can fix it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that just threw off my cheek.
So do we just get you a brush then, or?
I'm the painter, I'm the one that's gonna fix it anyways.
That's okay, somebody has.
I'm testing the finish.
That's okay. I'm the one that actually left a mark in the ceiling, so that's. Yeah.
So?
Who else wants to do a demo?
Who's supposed to do a demo?
I said, who else wants to do a demo?
I don't know. We haven't done any Xingyi yet.
Haven't done any Xingyi, no. No, we haven't done any Xingyi.
No, Xingyi.
Yeah.
As you can see, our Sifu Sammy, who has not yet arrived, this is his brother Mo. Sifu Mo, who'll be teaching Tai Chi classes here. You're supposed to keep going, I'm talking. Tai Chi classes here at the Red Deer location in downtown Edmonton. As you can see on the back of his uniform is the logo of he and his brother's school, which is a picture of the Flying Guillotine.
Flying Guillotine Athletic Association.
Exactly. Translated as the old blood dripper.
Jason says push-ups.
You just got push-ups over the internet. Jason's one of the instructors that couldn't make it. He's in BC, which means he's watching right now.
Oh, he says you're supposed to tell the story about the fluorescent fixtures in the old school.
Why don't you just shut the hell up, Jace? It's not a good story. Means I should be judged for that. I had this bright idea that we should work on our bobbing and weaving one night, do a little dodging. So everybody was doing fine. I had a little rope, and then I got excited. Everybody was kind of calm, so I picked up my sectional. Things got a little crazy. There was class and push-ups and all kinds of things happened. Oh, me too. I did all those push-ups. Oh well, that's okay. So, do we want to do any more demonstrations? As you may or may not have known, Red Jade is not a stereotypical place. I don't take this stuff any less seriously than anybody else, but I absolutely adhere to the fact that the way I was taught was a family. And even though my teacher wasn't incredibly family-like, I really do see a martial arts club as a family, as a real community. And if you can't get along like it's a family, and not like in the put-on way that families do at Thanksgiving or whatever, when crazy Uncle Bob's there and you're trying to not talk to crazy Uncle Bob about the politics or whatever. But like legit, you might not be able to pick some families, but you can pick this one. That's the deal. So, if we're not, oh fine, yeah, clap. Fantastic. It's push-ups.
You're at my house, I'll come up and push your family.
Yeah, exactly, right?
Pressure, internet pressure.
Internet pressure.
Yeah, right.
So if everybody is bored of demos or nobody wants to do another one, dead silence.
Do the breathing.
So let's do some stuff, yeah.
Okay.
So, I guess I'm supposed to sit up there, aren't I?
Now you're sitting up there, yeah. Hashtag Jared makes me do this.
Makes me do
Yeah.
this. So, I have one teacher left here in Edmonton. That's Sifu Chen Ximing. He's a Chinese doctor. He's actually a very famous doctor back in Guangzhou. But one of his daughters basically decided to move to Canada, and she got married and all that kind of stuff. So he followed, and I met him just after he moved here. I think 2002, 3, something like that. And it was literally a dream come true for me. He was my Yoda, this wild old Chinese doctor guy, and he'd tell me to come over after I taught my classes.
to the closed doctor shop. We trained by the herbs. It was like a dream, right? It was like a movie. But although I can tell you some kind of crazy stories about him, like when he broke the chair in front of me, telling me the importance of arm banging and how it helps increase bone density. And he took one of those office chairs, you know, with like the wooden arms on it. 64 years old, he says. And he chops it in half with his forearm. Breaks his chair. I'm worried about the chair, naturally. What are you going to do to replace that? And he just looks at me, he's like, 64. I should be hurt. And I'm thinking, wow, that's actually pretty heavy. So anyway, I started going to his clinic 2-3 times a week after I taught my classes when we were on Jasper Ave. Sometimes Shug would come and teach my classes on Sundays so I could go train the seafood. And he taught me Shirba Lohan Zhang, 18 Lohan Pong, which is a Qigong system that happens to have some martial arts in it. And other Qigong systems will have no martial arts. And some people will say, for instance, that Tai Chi is also Qigong. It is, but it's a martial art that has some health benefits. 18 Lohan Pong is a health art that happens to have some martial ability. And the big thing in Lohan Zhang is longevity. So it's based heavily on living a longer life, which doesn't necessarily mean like weird Taoist immortality, you're going to live 300 years. It means living until you die. So if you're 60 years old and you're in fairly good health and then things kind of go downhill, but you live till you're 95, your last 35 years kind of sucked, right? And that's not longevity in the Chinese way of thinking. Longevity is living till 80, but living your life the whole time. And that's what it's all concerned with. That's what the entire art is concerned with. So when really starting to learn Lohan, one of the very first things that he teaches, if you're like an indoor student, you know, you've got some trust, is the breathing exercise he asked me to share with you guys tonight. So it's very simple. And if you want me to go into the detail, which I probably should, because not everybody's trained with me, I guess. It's a very, very simple exercise. So we would sit, if we're sitting on chairs, with our backs away from the chairs. Okay, because if you lean up against the
go ahead and take chairs
chair,
between
your
more
posture
folks.
sucks.
Part of the exercise.
Wow, broadcasting this.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's okay.
It's okay.
It just freaks me out. So, sitting, and I'm not going to go through every detail of the posture, but if you know anything about posture, try to have your back nice and straight. Feel your ischial bones, your sitting bones underneath you, bearing your weight, okay? Stack the spine like a pillar, and tuck your chin in just a little bit to elongate your neck, okay? We tend to have this posture all of the time, with the kind of chin up thing. And you'll either see this as people are walking around through their lives, or you generally see this as people walk around through their lives, right? Or once in a while you get this guy. None of those are really great posture. The reason our chins stick out like this, though, why it has to be measured and we have to talk about it, has to do with evolution. All animals put their eyes on the horizon. All of them. We all do it. So, if I was a four-legged creature with my eyes on the horizon, when I stand up, my neck's like that. We haven't finished this yet. We're on our way. But we've only made it to about here. Give it a few thousand more years. Maybe we'll all have really nice necks. The neck is huge though because it opens up the airway. And what we're doing here is we're going to talk really heavily about how we're breathing. So we don't want to have any restrictions throughout the airway. All right. So we're chilling. We're going to have our hands palm up on our legs. And the action's very simple. All the action is we're going to mirror our lungs with our hands. So we close our fists. And as we inhale, our lungs expand, our hands expand. And then as we exhale, our lungs contract, so our hands contract. Okay? So just do a couple of those, and I'm just going to start adding pieces. So now you want to have the tongue touching the roof of your mouth. It has to do with how the muscularity of the body connects. There's actually kind of a disconnect in our jaws. So when you touch the upper palate gently with your tongue, the muscular chain through the front of the body and the muscular chain up the back of the body can actually talk to one another. If we were doing a Tai Chi type class, I could show you a really weird trick about how you're instantly stronger when you pick up your tongue. Now the next thing we're going to do is, as we close our fists, we're going to bring our thumb across our palm, and we're going to wrap our fingers around it. Okay? So it's the same exercise we're doing with breathing in and breathing out. Pretty simple, right? Now, generally speaking, that's as far as Sifu will go in most companies. This is a very cool Qigong. I actually just finished writing this. I'm writing a book on this art. Sifu Chen has actually agreed to let me film them and all kinds of stuff. And I just finished writing this section, so I actually sound like I know what I'm talking about. Now, the type of breathing we're going to do is called Buddhist breathing. So there's essentially two types of breath in martial arts, okay? Well, two types of, we'll say in Qigong. There's Taoist breathing, or reverse breathing, and Buddhist breathing, or bellows breathing, sometimes it's called, or belly breathing. And what it means is that as I inhale, I don't want my chest to rise and fall as much as a normal person, okay? Normal people breathe with their chests. We're up here, right? And what that means, first of all, is that we only use between 40 and 60% of the lung capacity of our lungs. So we could be working a lot more efficiently than we are, but we're not, right? We want to oxygenate the blood. That keeps us going. So we want to make sure that our breathing is very slow, very deep. We want to inhale as much as we can and exhale as much as we can. But if we only breathe through the upper chest, we're still not really engaging the bottom of the lung. So the way that the Buddhist method fixes that is it places the idea that the lungs, if you will, are breathing into your belly. So as you breathe in, you actually want your belly to expand, and you don't want your chest to rise. So an interesting way to do it is to just put your hand on your navel, one hand on your chest. Inhale, feel your belly move outwards, pressing against your palm, and not having your chest rise. So now as you exhale, of course, this will be contracting. Not a great word, because you're not tightening, but it'll go back in. I'm really careful with words because verbiage matters a lot. If I say contract your stomach when you exhale, for all I know, I may never see you again, and you're going to spend the rest of your life going, when you practice this exercise, and that's going to suck. So it's not a contraction, it's an engagement, it's a release, okay? So now, do a few Buddhist breaths, nice and cool. Nice and easy. How far down the rabbit hole should I go?
Oh, you're already in the rabbit hole, you might as well drop.
Might as well keep going.
Yep.
Hey, Sam. Okay. Now, we can, if we take a little bit of time, we can do this with a partner. But when I say to expand the abdomen, the belly, it doesn't mean the belly expands forward. This is a misconception, and again, it has to do with words. It means that I'm expanding my entire belly. So I want to engage the muscularity of the abdomen outwards, but I also want to engage my obliques and everything to move outwards. And more difficult, but you can actually engage your lower back the same way. And you can make it breathe with you. I mean, if you guys want to actually learn this, the best thing you can do right now is stand up and pick a partner and touch the other person on their lower back so they have something to breathe into, because it's a part of our body that is so out of our sight and out of our mind that we never think about our lower backs. It's one of the reasons we destroy them so much, right? The cognitive homunculus of the way we see ourselves is, we see this. You don't see here. Nobody sees here, you know, except when you're following somebody down the street, you might see them there, but you never see you here. So having somebody place something on your lower back gives you a point of reference. And you can do it for yourself, like what I'm doing, where I'm just touching my back. If I practice breathing in this way, so I'm still expanding my belly, but I'm trying to expand backwards as much as I expand forwards. So what I'm trying to do is make my abdomen expand like it's a sphere, so in all directions it moves. It took me a long time to get this. I was very much trapped in the idea that the belly expanded forward and backward, again because of language. The language is a very powerful thing, so we have to pay very close attention to it. So just place your hands below your kidneys, or on your kidneys, and just do a few breaths, and see if you can get your lower back to breathe with you. Inhale and exhale a little bit. So we inhale, it all expands, we exhale, it all contracts, it all goes back into its normal space. Tongue on the roof of the mouth, chin tucked in, ischial bones taking the weight, feet planted flat on the floor. Be all zen, more zen. Yeah, there we go. Can you feel the zen? I can smell it. quality.
Are those corners cut yet, James?
No, they're brushed. He doesn't cut corners.
I don't cut corners, I brush.
So I mean, really, that's enough to be able to actually practice this. So the whole thing is that I match my breathing, okay, with my hands. This is another really important thing about language. When I first said this, I said, our lungs expand, our hands expand, right? Our hands close, our lungs, close. It's very important that your breathing is not being controlled to what your hands are doing. Your hands are matching what's going on naturally, okay? Breath control is a whole other topic, and this is not it. This is not a breath control exercise. So I settle into my rhythm with my Buddhist breathing, and I kind of get the vibe of how long an inhale is, how long an exhale is, and then I start matching my hands to it. So it's really simple. Just keep doing this. I'm going to yap a little bit here. So just keep going. Just keep going when I talk. I'm just going to watch it a little bit too. But, you know what? All I'm going to say is the last bit of it. When babies are born, a couple of really interesting things happen. They're born face up, if everything goes well. And even before the rest of their bodies are out of their mothers, their eyes will flick open and close. That's the moment that the Chinese and the Chinese medical community consider that you're now a born human. You're post-heaven now. You've seen the sky. The next thing that's really interesting is that babies are born with their fists clenched. I was just doing the research on this for the book, and it's like something like 78% or so of babies were born with their fists closed. And if their fists aren't closed when they're born, it tends to be pointing at some kind of, what is it in English? Pre-heaven, what is it? Congenital? Congenital issue. So, what's interesting about that is that means we're all born with our fists closed, most likely. The guy who just gave James push-ups, Jason, he's a paramedic. And he's a paramedic on the highest, most dangerous mountain pass in British Columbia, where I used to live. So Jason has seen a lot of people leave this world, like a lot. And one of the things Jason told me when he first learned this from me and Sifu Chen was, you want to know the first thing paramedics look at when they walk up to the car? Are his hands open or closed? Because when you die, we all do this. We all let go. That's why this is called the life and death Qigong. Because what you're doing is you're simulating your entire life in one breath. Right from the moment you're born and you're hanging on and grasping at life to the moment you let go. And it's really cool if you're into this stuff because it's actually in a yin-yang paradox as well. Because you inhale and you breathe in and you let go at the same time. It's pretty cool, right? So one of the things that tends to happen actually is you'll find that you're breathing and your hands will flip over on you. And that's the mental part of it, if you will, is that you need to just pay attention that suddenly you'll be breathing in and you'll hold on. And you'll be like, wait a minute, no, that's not what I'm supposed to be doing. Because that's the idea. In Chinese medicine, the idea is balance is what creates health. People who are in good health are in good balance. That's why all this martial arts stuff and Qigong stuff works, is all we're trying to do is get our bodies to be as balanced as possible. Just like me talking about how expanding the belly is expanding the back. If I only expand my belly, then I'm not balancing my body. And it's really important to balance our bodies. That's what all of this stuff we've done tonight is really demonstrating, are ways for us to keep ourselves healthy and strong. And there are ways that we can do that throughout our entire lives, as long as we pay attention to things like getting older, listening to our bodies, doing things, for instance, symmetrically. That always helps, right? Don't be completely one-sided, all that sort of thing. Does that make some sense? Yeah, it's pretty cool Qigong, that one, even though it's very simple. And those of you, since we're all in Edmonton, this is the secret handshake for Sifu Chen. If you guys meet Sifu Chen, I kid you not, and you do this, he'll know you trained with me. And that actually came up because a guy came to him a few years ago, said he was one of my students and tried to train with him. And I got a phone call and he's like, hey, you know this guy? And I was like, I don't know who that guy is. So he was like, hey, we need a signal. So that's the signals, if you ever see him go. And he'll say deep water, he'll go some way. What's that?
Sunday? Mentioned Sunday?
No.
No.
Yeah, so that's that. That's the life and death Qigong. Any questions? All right then, that was that. So now I guess we should try to have a little drink and talk about how weird this all is.
Okay.
And then we'll do the panel discussion. How about that?
So we're going to take a few minutes to tidy up and
we'll tidy up.
Have some refreshments, meet everybody.
Yeah, meet everybody. If you don't know,
And I'm gonna head out.
if there's new people
But
Yeah.
looks good.
that are sitting
Looks
over here
good.
by themselves.
Let me know eventually when Mo is doing his Tai Chi, or if there's other Tai Chi classes going on, okay? And I'll see about signing up for see how things go. Alright. Just start the freezing cold, Corey. Take it easy on the roads because they're going to be a mess with the snow and everything. But okay, I will see you. I didn't get everything done I wanted to today, so I'll be grocery shopping tomorrow if you don't see me, okay?
Well, I'm here tomorrow, so.
Oh, you're here all day again tomorrow. Okay. At some point I'm going to do some grocery shopping. We'll have some food and we'll come in the house. Okay.
Everyone is just I got a diploma in business.
Yeah, well, was it being a barbershop dance place?
Yes, yes, we did.
You might have been there when we
This is one training. I think I met you actually.
I haven't been trying to maybe enjoying the weather.
It's
like the worst time to come. February is not usually not bad, like you chase their 17 degrees.
I've never been
Water's still with us. And the fact that it's so long. I pour car every morning. It's like, that is like
that's crazy.
No, it's not the
Because I'm sure there's probably way more things to work and
And the thing is, like, you get a lot of people.
She's some pretty things I wanted to come and hang out.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yes. I'm not sure. We don't have our schedule for the
Classes, yeah, so all the classes are on the website, so you can register and start booking if you want to. If there's time slots that you're looking for, like we're also building the schedule too, so if there's time slots that are better for you and you're like looking for stuff, let us know, because we're still like able to fiddle around with that kind of thing too.
I used to do Qigong, whatever form, and I find that
in terms of sort of way
so I come out and
yeah, because you can get double-headed very quick, eh? But it's that expansion of engagement, yeah. That's one of the weaknesses of our southern system.
oh yeah,
If you don't understand the term, the true term. Oh yeah. Well, this is why you
that you're breathing so weird.
I have a funny story about that.
So who's making tea? I don't know actually who's making tea or anything. I didn't actually and eventually serve it. Yeah, I just don't know. I don't know yet.
So it'd be nice to get back into
Yeah, well, I think I'm going to continue.
That one I need is power, isn't it? Do you have power? I do have power.
Give me my hero if I could blow some power.
That one I need because it's the camera's power.
Yeah.
Here it is.
Oh, dude, touch base with Seal. My phone.
You know what? The batteries in this thing, you say that's what they use? No, they don't.
Every time I'm in London, I'm
Is the down volume button that shows resets code? If you hold it down for too long, that's exactly what I mean. Well, because if you're running an app and then the thing dies, the phone doesn't know even how to look at itself anymore. Maybe that's my phone.
No, it's most phones.
Whatever you want. First time. I think with some of them.
We all got along with all the fights happened outside the house. That's when
We have another guest coming. You're the man now, dog. You're the man now, dog. You're the one now.
Don't believe a word he says.
That's right.
Jason says hello.
Hi.
To Jesse.
Well, hi anyway. Alexa, play Bad Moon Rising. Alexa. Alexa. Spoken.
If only we could like mirror the camera so people could see what the joke was. I'm sorry, man. It's just like that. Alexa.
This way you go, you have it,
What's the new feature? The firmware,
So, these little people here are curious about
the kids' classes. What would you like to know? Well, you can start your classes as early as Tuesday. We just, because we're still starting out, we'll still have but our classes are ready to go. So, Sammy and Mo are the ones that handle our kids' classes. They are Tuesdays and Thursdays. Pandas are stick with the website. There's 2 days a week, and we're actually going to do more if there's enough people. And you always need to show up for one of those. Because it's going to be the same both days, but you can come multiple times if you want to. Because your membership. The one thing that I'm going to have to take an opportunity to explain, but I don't mind telling you guys first, is that the way our membership works is you pay one fee for unlimited access. There's no per class charges, there's no any of that kind of stuff. It's just an app. You skip to my webpage here to show you.
It cools down to like a nice cool 27 degrees.
So redjade.ca is our webpage, and it'll load up all of our different membership options. Right now, until the end of the month is the best time because we'll have it on sale for $88. Our regular adult membership is $150. Kids is $100, and then there's costs for everything. So those are the classes sign-ups. If you go to schedule, this is where you can see where the classes are. Who's going to be right now? I mean, I'm working on making it. Because all the teachers are in there right now, but you can see who's teaching. You'll be able to see the level of the class and who all is going to be attending. You can book your classes right online. We have an app for this called GlowFox, and I'm putting out advertising, so we're really like putting all this together right now. But if you download GlowFox, you can do it all from your phone. Yeah, it's super simple, and we'll also be putting all of our announcements through the phone app, and the phone app will have access to our store eventually, so and we do all kinds of promos and stuff. This is definitely the app is probably the easiest way to stay in touch with classes. If you're just trying to stay in touch with us, our Facebook page is all.
I kind of got that cognitive, like,
I know that's a lot.
where things are kind of thing.
Sorry. The big thing to remember: redjade.ca, GlowFox. Are you guys going to stick around for the tea? Are you going to stick around for the tea we're about to have? Absolutely, because it's just going to be more of the same. We're having a discussion, and you can ask questions, and we're going to serve it all out. If you want to stick around for a while, you're more than welcome. Okay, thank you very much for coming. Make sure come over here and sign up because put in your 1, 3, 5, 7, 8, 1. Come on around and sign in. If you sign in with your email address, we're going to be sending out some free class passes just to come down and pick up an actual class for free as a thank you for coming down for the conference. So yeah, so if you wanted to do that, go ahead and fill in the blanks and.
When?
Like when this place was getting
It's a lot safer downtown.
Right?
You didn't call me for that stuff. This guy, Jared's gonna hold him down.
If they did phone me in the middle of the case now,
Yeah, that's true.
literally.
It's really helpful for the dragon too. Okay.
Okay. Awesome. Thank you very much.
Oh yeah, we chatted. That's the first one. Okay. I want water. No. For sure. Okay. Wow. This is
Welcome. I'm Jared. Alex, nice to meet you. Just checking things out. You new here?
It's kind of wonderful.
Awesome. How'd you hear about this thing?
I was invited by my master's at Chilliwack Technical College.
Oh, really? You're from Chilliwack. Okay. Awesome. I taught him before. That's supposed to be coming by. Awesome. Very good. Yeah, no, that's good. We did some demos earlier, but he's about to start in a few minutes here, so yeah, good timing. Awesome. Glad you guys were able to come out. That's Gary right there is our headmaster, so he's the guy kind of running things. I'm just kind of organizing stuff. Doesn't use many of the same principles that he's taught to I don't know what I did to the YouTube channel. Where's my video? So that's awesome. That's Chris's phone. Oh, here we go. What was it? Inside rib. 14 at the moment. We went up to 25. So I'm still making that. You made it. Thank you for that. You have rib power. Very excited. The idea of the ribs closing out. This is our thank you. It's exactly right. You guys just found me, so we're glad you're here. Very much so. Looking forward to seeing Steve next Sunday. He's busy tonight. Did you? You actually have. Oh, did you? Press the jaw. When do you not work? It actually helps. You always work, don't you? That's what it's been like here for the last week too. I'm starting to understand how you're so busy, just keeping things going. I'm learning. The first version I learned? I am now, yeah. So actually, hi Jerry. Like this. Good. How are you? Happy New Year to you too. Thanks for coming.
You're the main brain behind us?
I wouldn't call me the brain. I'm kind of like the motor. Yeah, I'm not very smart. I'm just plugging in the cables and making sure people are going. Everybody knows you're important. If I were to leave, everything would still be here. In Tai Chi here, but not working. But the big difference between all of it is sort of I'm going to get people in their chairs. The score is fantastic, except for one major flaw. It throws your root off. No, it's worse than Bajin. I actually did it by accident. No, by habit. Not by accident, by habit. When I was doing this, I was here, and then I shot myself up, so it became reverse power, retreat power, instead of being, so instead of here, I should have more expanded. So when I did it fast, I went into bad habits. So yeah, that was a white tiger. White tiger, white eyebrow, dragon. Derp. Yeah, I have a personal theory that white tiger is really nothing more than multiple arts put together by the recent people that teach it, and they just combined. It has elements of Xingyi. It has elements of Long Fist. So it's very that fit. My point is that's why it's sort of but everything is useful when you have the right concepts. So, yeah, but I love Dragon Shoot too. Dragon shape is
I went through a bunch of options and I was like, oh,
I'm sorry?
It's how big it is.
There are a couple guys. I think it's
They're saying you look like you could use definitive words. Don't always like the definitive word.
I see what you did there. Oh, hey there. Oh, hey there. Oh, yeah. Been around. I was chased by a bear in a dark alley, and the man says, too early. Yeah. You guys probably don't get this. Got it before I came here.
Did you? Like this bad?
Yeah. About like a week before I came here, we had like a vortex story. Then it's reached here less than I can do.
Yeah, if you waited like a week or two, maybe it wouldn't be so bad here. But
There is. It's just not free.
what's that?
The parking lot you were asking about.
Oh, yeah.
I'm just now checking my phone.
It said, oh yeah. I was like, Jared, goddammit. Tell me where, Jared.
Oh, at least he's giving you an answer now.
Yeah, I found one. It's all good. It's only $3 anyway.
That picture.
Yeah. Damien.
Really perfect.
Good. I've been training a fair bit last little bit here. Yeah, we were doing some sparring, about 2 months ago or whatever, and I couldn't really do it, so it's still sore. Yeah. It felt like Batman in like the first 2 Christopher Nolan movies. Yeah, it was like
Water tucked into my landing.
Turn right around. Just freaking like the next one's like same people turning back. It's like
it was pretty bad. I mean, I haven't gone to a chiropractor yet, but that's where I'd probably help to talk to you about
injuries are no fun, and like, from what I've experienced.
Yeah, you've had the
Yeah, because like
The price is going to be $100 for adults, $100 for kids. That's unlimited access to all the different classes that we want.
kind of doing everything. So it's like
Monday for my stress points. Oh, yeah.
$80 a month with adults.
Yeah, that's right. You could have made this
And then I haven't really figured out how to do this. Because that's what we like to do, to be able to.
So you still
Okay,
are you higher now?
Yeah, I know. For you, like,
Okay.
no matter what,
I thought I read something like that.
I still always think
Sweet, man. Congrats.
yeah, absolutely. So I think that's probably the best way. And we do, if you want to use like the
Okay. Yeah.
but the annual membership.
I'm also very lazy.
So you save like
You probably like half an hour a day.
as much as we can.
I'm not as far off. My stamina.
Oh yeah, my stamina is terrible.
Oh yeah, I appreciate that.
I have to work though.
Since like I got diagnosed with Chi deficiency, it's been down to a certain level.
I'd have to work something out for you guys specifically because I want to make sure that you guys got your
And now my stamina's down here.
Oh yeah.
I haven't recovered since then.
I just have to figure out where
I can read that.
Yeah.
Okay.
we'll be able to get you all. The issue is that for whatever reason, they only
Basically, I need to rest more.
Oh, rest more. Yeah.
But I never really
so I'm still like trying to figure out how to
Right. Yeah.
So as soon as I can figure that out,
I was like super tired like every day. And it was mainly because I was in bed way too late. And I actually went to bed a little early the other day.
It's just because they starting in San Diego, they started off with like students and stuff, right? So I brought it up. So what about a family that wants to come in?
Yeah, no, I get the same thing. I'm like wide awake, like late at night.
So they've been really awesome.
Really? I'm never that awake.
probably be used for like when I wake up till when I go to bed, writing articles and writing my books, and then take your pants off.
So this is the Glow Fox app. Because I host multiple studios, if I pay more per month, I can get like a standalone app for ourselves. But you sign in, I'm going to use my emails inside. Are we ready, Jeff? This is the Glow Fox. Yes.
You can only reverse it.
I'm showing the Glow Fox to Jesse.
I'm going to go and sit down. Everybody tell you?
No.
What you should do is tell people we're going to get started to sit down.
Okay, everybody, we're going to get started here. So please come and join us.
Is that my password? It is my password. So then, so you can see that the classes that are coming up, and you can book for them right here. You can get your memberships right in the app, pay for them right here. And eventually, we're also going to have there'll be courses. So like the actual like Tigers Kids program for the year. So courses, or eventually we're going to have like individual training for each of the different teachers will be there as personal trainers. So it lets us do all that kind of stuff. So I'm kind of feeling this up. Yeah, it's a really happy system. It links up to our webpage, so all of this stuff is the same as what's on our webpage.
Join us, unless you don't want to. If you want to, absolutely, or just sit at the front row and I'll call on you anyway.
Okay. Schedule and sign up and same
My private space there, Grant. Okay, that was a really weird moment for it to get quiet.
James, that's what you're all about.
That is what you're all about.
It's gonna get awkward. I'm gonna make it awkward.
I'm gonna make it
Really loud.
You're going to turn the ringer up really, really loud?
I'm turning mine all the way up.
What disease am I? I've been wanting to know for years.
Hey, how's that for timing?
Yeah.
Come on in, man. We have a seat for you.
Awesome, thank you.
I like to learn the ways of peace, so we can force it upon other people.
Found us all right, obviously.
Yeah, the only issue is finding parking.
Right now, because there's instructions there, it's walking up the alley to our direct parking. You can get in to the wind, but right now it's...
Yeah, I got parking tonight.
Now we're all friends.
Well, okay. I need a chair started? Yeah, I'll bring a chair. Oh, James has my chair.
Oh, look at that, yeah.
Well done, James.
Wow. Well done, James.
Painter, chair master.
And the corners, he's the man now, dog.
I've got corners I brushed.
It's getting old, James.
Just like James.
Yeah, let's not go on that one.
The joke is old.
Sorry, right, being very official.
Formal yourselves up.
So we're going to do our tea panel discussion. When I was still living in BC, friends of mine and myself got onto this really cool topic one night. We were talking about it. And it was like, wouldn't it be great if we could get a whole bunch of people who practiced a long time to just sit and chat with one another? Have a real conversation, not the typical Facebook, I'm self-promoting conversation. And that ended up growing because what happened, of course, is like, well, how do you get all these people to get along? How do you get them all into one room? So it turned into the Deep Water Convention. So next thing you know, there was a tea panel discussion, but then we put did a whole tournament and stuff, so people could bring their stools and all this sort of stuff. But really, it was more of my friends were trying to help me realize my dream of getting together with a bunch of other weirdos and talk. So now, suckers, you're here. So the idea is that, we'll have a few questions, not necessarily prepared questions, but just general questions about martial arts. And anybody here is more than welcome to ask any questions you want. There is a ton of martial arts up here. Ton.
And I know there's some new people that just showed up, so I'm just going to introduce a couple more people. I'll just go through everybody one more time. So Mo is one of our Tai Chi teachers, Chen Tai Chi. Oh, pardon me. It's Raymond.
Almost silent.
Honor to you.
You don't want to pick that up?
He's the nose now.
Steve is our Southern Arts teacher. He's going to be doing Southern style classes. This is our special guest who flew out from Winnipeg, Kelly. He's got Sifu Sammy. He is one of the main teachers here. He is a drunken Kung Fu teacher, drunken Kung Fu master. He's my first student to get to that place in drunken style. Sifu Mike is the head instructor, as I recall, at the Chulao Kung Fu College, right? Here in Edmonton on Spooner Road. Grant, he runs a Wing Chun school as well. And late but not least, just flew in from, where'd you fly from? Calgary. Just flew from Calgary. We've got Sensei Tom Gillis, who actually was at the first Deepwater too, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, you told me. Yeah, and he's I think that's enough of that, right? All right, so now the only other thing we have to do that's sort of planned is somebody who tried to get here but ended up getting called away for work. My student and friend Jason Deathridge, who's in BC, he sent a written, I don't even know what it is. I didn't read it because it's more fun that way. But he sent a written message to us. I assume.
Well, it's more than a page long, so it's from Jason.
Yeah, Jared. It's actually 2.5 pages long.
Oh, you printed it? Oh, that's stronger for you.
So you can see.
But it's not double spaced. How am I supposed to time it?
No, it's not timed. It's not double spaced. We're trying to save trees by printing it out.
All right, so Sifu Jason, he's one of our favorite people. I'm not standing there. You guys are the teachers. I'm just reading. Was really sad that he couldn't make it, so he wrote us this kind of letter just to say thank you, to welcome us into this new place, and oh, that's okay, that's fine. So I'm just going to get right into it. I'd like to send a few words to all the teachers, students, attendees at the grand opening of Red Jade Edmonton. I send my deepest regrets for not being able to attend this worthy occasion, and hope to be able to visit later in the summer during the next full-time training period. It's a pleasure to see Sifu Ripsky's journey come full circle with the opening of Red Jade Edmonton. It was here in Edmonton that his martial arts journey truly began, and much of his early training occurred here. Over the years, though he lived in many other places, much of his martial arts history will remain tied to this place. While we were fortunate to have him in my hometown of Creston, BC for many years, I wholeheartedly celebrate the closing of the circle of his journey so far and his return to the great seat of Edmonton and the opening of a dedicated training hall. In addition to Sifu Ripsky's own skill and experience, Red Jade Edmonton will be of great benefit to others through the bridges it builds and the other styles and practitioners who choose to attend. I offer my congratulations and welcome to those other teachers and students who have embarked on this momentous partnership. I also offer congratulations to Sifu Sammy and Mo and commend their ongoing efforts to exemplify martial virtue and the value of hard work through their classes under the Red Jade banner. To Qigong Shug, I bow deeply to your great contributions and experience and stand in spirit at your side as we continue to try and guide and protect its family and its wisdom. To all other members of the Red Jade family now gathered under the banner of this quest for martial understanding and skill, know that you have joined a family that now has a home. I began training with Sifu Ripsky when he opened Red Jade Creston in early 2007 and found deep resonances there with my earlier martial training. Over the years, our relationship grew from master-student relationship to a more collegial one as my own researches and discoveries began to step beyond merely learning the style and starting to actually contribute to it. But I have never forgotten that it was Sifu Ripsky's uniquely effective teaching methods and passion for deeper understanding that helped set me on the path. It was his generosity and maturity that allowed a student such as myself to step into the ranks of teachers much greater than myself, and to trust me with the transmission and even expansion of this great body of martial understanding. His willingness to learn and explore gave me an incredibly skilled practitioner upon which to test the development of the Piercing Cloud sword system. His enthusiasm for learning and expanding the boundaries of his own knowledge continues as he opens his new home for the martial arts in Edmonton. I look forward to visiting and seeing the progress not only of the students of Red Jade, but also the teachers and mentors that make this family such a strong force in the world of martial arts. To those that are just beginning this journey, and even those who have already traveled far, I urge you to take deeply into your heart the principles of martial virtue. Firstly, humility is that quality that keeps us from bragging, displaying ourselves unnecessarily, and attempting to dominate others. Our arts are larger than fighting. They are a way of life that should continually provide positive benefits in all of the relationships around us, not just combative relationships. By being humble, willing to see the world as our teacher, and willing to forbear the petty annoyances and challenges that come our way, we are able to be of service to those around us. By being humble, our art is no longer a weapon of our ego, but is rather a tool of the uplifting of those around us, and I don't mean just by their necks. Empty your cup, and it can be filled with tea, poured by the friends and family that surround you. Secondly, the protection of the disempowered is a critical element of martial virtue. The character Wu, or Wu in Japanese, means literally to stop the spear. This doesn't mean only protection of the weak or the vigorous defense of what we hold dear. It means that we can choose to refrain from unnecessary violence ourselves. Through training the body and mind, we become sensitive to what is necessary for each situation, and we can avoid hurting or killing more than is necessary. If we pursue this path diligently enough, even those who would attack us can be seen for the suffering beings that they are, and be protected from their own disempowerment without having to be hurt or killed. At the highest levels, the martial ways are ones of healing and reconciliation. But these healing ways can only be understood if the killing ways are taken seriously, and vice versa. Always keep the purpose and responsibility of your training foremost in your mind. Lastly, for the purposes of this message, I will include unfailing effort. We can never allow ourselves to be satisfied with our learning. There is always more ahead, and every moment we spend in self-congratulation is a moment wasted on our journey forward. To truly deepen our understanding and take our arts from mere fighting arts to truly complete arts of life, we must never cease our search for new perspectives, new ways to stop lying to ourselves, and new ways to let go. As lifelong martial artist in various disciplines and proud senior practitioner of the Eight Shadows style known as the Moth family, I have always held Red Jade close to my heart. And I've been fortunate enough to get to train with many of you during your full-time stays, or when you visited the school in Preston. Though I am no longer located in the home city of Red Jade, know that the door to my humble hut is always open to students and teachers of Red Jade should they seek advice, training, or perspective in their martial journey. As we
Yeah, so follow that up.
Next.
Yeah.
Good day.
All right, so we can just go home now, I guess. Yeah.
I guess in Jason's absence, just because he's not here and can't give me the eyeball. Jason's a very interesting cat. I was very, very lucky to find him in Preston. Not only is he the paramedic I was talking about earlier, told me about what happens to the hands and arms when a person passes away, but he had already been training martial arts about 20 years when I met him. And in his lifetime, he's lived a very, very unique life, let's say. He actually grew up, his mother and father rescued a Tibetan Lama from the Chinese invasion. His mom was there and smuggled him out, which is insane. So Jason literally grew up with a Tibetan Lama in his bedroom, teaching him for years and years and years before he moved on. I think the Lama moved to Victoria, if I remember right. It's passed on now. And then Jason studied a great deal of Japanese arts, a great deal of Aikido, swordsmanship, and ended up a Taoist scholar. And not only is he a great friend of mine and a great martial artist, but he's actually founded a system of swordsmanship, Piercing Cloud Sword, which is actually the characters above my sword rack. And it's, let's just say it's very ingenious. If you ever really want to go get hit with a stick, I know the guy. I know the guy would be happy to hit you with a stick. Yeah.
Kendo sticks.
Couldn't get him up here.
I know.
Wow. See, you know, this is when Jason's supposed to start asking questions.
Yeah, which I happen to conveniently have a list of.
I don't even have to be here. Okay, Jace, go ahead.
All right, so as the de facto Jace, I'm just going to start here.
You're de facto Jace now.
Yeah, I'm de facto Jace. Some of these are really basic questions, and the spirit of the evening is really just to talk about what martial arts are and what they mean to us, and to ask questions about how, anything that you might want to learn about it. And to get things started, first question, and this is kind of on the nose, but we'll start with Sifu Ripski. Oh, can I do this like a? No, I shouldn't be that cruel.
Yeah, you should. Yeah.
What do you feel is the purpose of martial arts?
Why are you singling me out? See how many people are here?
You're the first one in the line. Yeah.
You want to trade seats? What is the purpose of martial arts?
What is the purpose of martial arts? For 200 points.
Okay. I would have to say that has changed radically over my life. When I started martial arts, the purpose of martial arts was fighting bullies off. Now, 30 years later, it's for fighting bullies off. No.
Same bullies.
Same bullies. Yeah. I just can't win. No, very much like what Jason wrote. To me, it's become this passion because it's about unraveling a big mystery. And over time, for a long time, I thought the mystery was like something about the language or about the culture, and really, I just ended up realizing it was a mystery that was pointing back at me. I was trying to unravel myself, and there's no greater filter, in my opinion, to look at who you really are than to put yourself in a position where you can test it. So, I mean, my kind of go-to for that is I've met a lot of like Zen practitioners and such, and they'll say things like they've let go of fear. I'm no longer afraid of death. And they'll be in like a cool Qigong group or meditation group, and everybody's like, wow, that's really Zen, man, that's super cool. And yet they walk into one of our places, and I know everybody up here would go, oh yeah? You want to check? Because we can check. And that's what's really beautiful about it, is it's extremely hard to lie to yourself when you can test it. When it's like, no, I've removed my fear of death. You sure? Come here. I know guys that can make you afraid to die. And if you really aren't, wow, you've really got something happening. There's so many things. I mean, understanding compassion. How better to understand things like that about yourself than to give the power of life and death to your own hands, and then suddenly have to realize that you have to deal with that. It's not an easy thing. So it's about fighting bullies.
It's about fighting bullies. All right then. One more for you that came from the online group. No, this one's directed just for you. What was your first Eureka or wow moment in your personal training? Like, when was it that you really realized that this was a thing for you? And we can actually kind of take that across the panel. That's a really good...
Why don't we start at the other end?
Okay, we'll start at the other end. Tom!
Yeah, Tom.
For me, it was the first time I stepped foot into a ninjutsu class. It was just, the skills were pretty high level violence, and everybody was throwing down, and there's a lot of big fit guys beating each other up, and I stepped foot into that room and I thought, whoa, yeah, I want to do this. And that was it. That was the first one.
Yeah. Grant?
For me, I'd already been training for 17, almost 18 years in karate, jiu-jitsu, and I found a Kung Fu club here in Edmonton. And I showed up, and I went against one of their beginners. They had my ass handed to me.
Who was it?
It was Gurr. Yeah. And he barely moved. And I was
like
flying
I
all
need to
over the place. So I was hooked. And I came back the next night, paid my dues, and continued to pay my dues painfully through my time. And then it just spawned more, and eventually got me to Wing Chun.
Awesome.
For me, I don't know, a eureka moment. It's kind of like the cumulative effects, and the benefits I see in my life. And really, my Sifu breaking me down, like breaking the ego down and making me real, like I couldn't pretend, my Sifu always said, like, hey, you can run, but you can't hide, and he's right, and you know, I'd see the benefit from that, and taking the sensitive approach and the humble approach, and how it's benefited my life and my relationships and my career and my overall education. And it's just like slowly became so ingrained in me that like I can't even think of not doing it at all. Like it's so maybe not just like a lightning bolt, like, oh, that's it, but just over time it'd be like, you know, your hand is growing out of you, and it's like, how can you give up your hand, kind of thing. Like it is you. So so yeah, thank you.
Sammy.
First eureka moment has to be Wing Chun. The first moment I crossed hands with somebody from outside of my school. I've been doing Wing Chun maybe like 6 months or so at that point, and it was the first moment where I realized I was seeing in slow-mo, like they were moving so much slower than me that I had time to. It was like in Spider-Man when he's getting bullied in the school, he doesn't know got his powers yet, and the bully's moving in super slow-mo, and he's time to like look back and look. It was like that, and that was the first moment I felt like I need to, like, I'm cheating, I have too much advantage. Let them go. That was probably it. And then it was addictive. I never looked back. I was like, oh wow, this is so cool. And then now the eureka moment is controlling that, tempering that feeling, finding a balance so you don't get too down that rabbit hole of enjoying it more and maybe getting carried away with it too much.
I'm of the same sort of vein. There's a cumulative conglomeration of moments. There are so many, really. Probably the first one was realizing that I cured myself of asthma that would almost kill me as a kid with my Qigong. The second was having my butt handed to me by my first Bagua Sifu after 12 years of full contact karate and being just on the ground all the time and not even seeing, being able to understand what was going on and going, my brain's melted. I'm gonna go find it. I'll be right back. And yeah, just the learning process. Just for me, the real eureka is the constant learning of just being able to, you know, find such other awesome weirdos. What are you looking at me for? I don't know. Hey, you brought it up. You started this. You started going. The exceptional character, that I continually discover in other human beings who practice and who train and who seek to refine themselves is really my biggest eureka.
See for Steve.
Well, I guess for me there's no singular moment like everyone else has been saying, but what I'm finding is I'm still in it. I'm still actually experiencing an eureka moment as if it was the sunrise. Where you're watching it coming up, there is something taking place inside of you, okay, where you're starting to feel far more, and I've used this with other people, use this word, freedom. You're becoming free of being entangled in many of your own earthly issues. But then you find how they're tied with the motion and movement of our bodies. I mean, there's no separation. So when does that eureka moment stop? So mine's been ongoing now for a while.
Well, again, like everyone else, I can't really pin it down to just one point in time in my life. It's definitely more than once. But much like what Steve just said, it's an ongoing process. The constant reaffirmation that every day is an opportunity to essentially be reborn, if you think of it. And I think the best way I could have ever understood this was when I was in Sudan, and I just trained with Neil. I think it was after 2 or 3 years, and I already had a small class, just some university students. I was just volunteering just to I just needed bodies just to throw around. And luckily enough, the guys I was going up against were also Taekwondo practitioners and were karate guys as well, and so lots of different experience with different martial arts. And the eureka moment, the real moment where the light bulbs kind of went on for me was when, after taking round after round after round after round of challengers from different countries all across Africa, the fact that I could still keep going and still not feel satisfied with what I had learned, with whom I had fought, with any more I could possibly hope to, I guess, harvest. Like the feeling that this is a lifelong thing. That you cannot stop doing this. And so, I mean, you can't stop doing it. I mean, you can't stop doing it. But if you hope to improve, you hope to advance, then this is something you have to be doing every day, or otherwise, what is it that you are hoping to unveil about yourself? And I think right now, at this point in my life, I could really 1 in a million chance of meeting this man, of meeting these people, meeting everybody else in this room. I don't know how else to put it other than it's a blessing, for lack of a better term. And I'm forever grateful for being here, for being amongst these people, and to be practicing this art and these traditions that, as far as I know, go back thousands and thousands and thousands of years. To be part of something bigger than myself and all of us here. So yeah, my eureka moment.
Ripsky.
Do I have to answer this?
You have to answer all of the questions. I'm only singling out individuals for other questions. You get to answer every question. It is baloney, yeah.
I have a question first.
You have a question?
What was your eureka moment?
Oh, this is for Damien, yeah.
Yeah, I want to hear what Damien's is.
First time you and I kind of sparred. Yeah, sparred.
Oh, yeah?
When you used all the 8 immortals on me. I remember every single punch.
They should be healed by now.
Skin grab.
Oh, I remember that.
I remember I woke up with more bruises than I went to bed with. But that taught me to look at everything differently. It made me see that punches are going to fight the way I thought it was.
That's a huge thing, I think.
I still remember that every single moment.
Wow, really? That's really cool.
In my head.
You'll have to tell me how it went. You'll have to tell me all about it later. I've been punched in the head too much to remember that. You know what the biggest eureka moment for me lately has been? Was when I realized that for I don't even know how many years, decades, I had no idea what was going on. My teacher would tell me to do something and practice this thing. And I would be like, oh yeah, this is going to make my punches stronger, or whatever. You know, I'm super good at this. And then, 15 years later, I'd be like, oh, that's absolutely not what that exercise was for. And I started going through everything and realizing that as soon as I, whatever I thought it was about, it was not about that. And I had to really go back into it and unravel things. And that's what I mean, like it's just a big mystery to unroll. You have to unravel it. I love that. And I see that in classes, and it's changed the way I teach now. Because I give the guys something to do. And sometimes just for fun, I'll be like, so what do you think this is for? Just so I can hear the wrong answers. Because, I get a kick out of that. But at the same time, I'm like, I totally remember being right there. I know exactly what you're thinking. That's awesome. Because then, we can build something from there, right? It's cool. That's really cool. And we fought, eh? What's the next question, Jared?
I'm just making a seat for people real quick here.
Oh, okay. That's good. We're running out of chairs. Kim,
we have a question.
We have a question. Kim, there's a seat up here.
Oh, I'm good back here.
No, you're not.
Just so everybody knows, the person who's not sitting in the front was the teacher of the Vegreville school. And yeah, now she's not anymore and she's hiding. What's your question?
I was sort of surprised that I'm assuming you're all passing your knowledge on, and nobody read the moment is a student or sort of the grasshopper thing.
Not the first one, but definitely later.
It's also not common.
Yeah, that's true.
Rare. I've only got one student that's bashed, and I've been teaching like 20-something years. Yeah,
same. It's kind of hard to get too emotionally involved in a lot of students too, because it's like you can have such hope, you know, when you first start teaching. Oh yeah, and you're like, oh, you keep this up, and you're just gonna be like so sweet. Yeah, exactly. And then you're like, oh, I'm gonna go try jazz, and like,
right there.
So, yeah, you gotta temper it for the students. Yes, yeah, but it is worth it to see the ones that do stick with it, and you're like, yeah, and then they get that job, and then they get that relationship, and you know, or they get that house, and they get that move, and they're just happy, and they're not in a shell anymore, they're themselves, and you know, you're just like, yeah,
and that's a real reward when you see them like be themselves, even if that means they're not training with you anymore.
Yeah, actually, I just went through that really recently. My student who took over my old dojo came to me about 6 months ago and said he doesn't want to be my student anymore because he's not interested in the arts I train in anymore. So it was really difficult for me to let him go because he was my guy, the guy I invested all the time in, the 1 out of 100 that made it, and the guy that I handed the keys over to when I left. But then to make sure I did right by him, I needed to make sure that the arts that he's interested in, that he got connected with a good future in those arts. So it's kind of a bittersweet moment because I'm super happy for him that he's exploring his own passions, and that you know, martial arts is something that's still part of his life, but at the same token, it's hard to let go.
That's another type of kung fu, I think, right there, that type of practice. Because that ego, right? You got to deal with that, especially as a teacher. It's magnified, and but that's the training you do, and then the chi flows, right? And then it's another type of benefit, another type of level. I find that you get when you can walk them through the siege. Yeah, when you let go. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
That really leads into the next question, actually, which is for all of you again, is how would you define or separate the definitions of what a master or a teacher or a student is?
There is none.
Best way I could sum it up, a master is really just a student who didn't stop. And the student, and really, and if we're going to go with that, there is no master. I think the master.
That's an English word. That's an English word, a mental concept. To label, to try and understand the linear progression when these kind of arts.
Because when the master sits up on a placard on a wall.
He's usually dead there. That's passed on and attained truly celestial status.
It's dangerous to think yourself as a master. When you stop learning.
And I would pick up on that and say all the true masters that I've ever met, they don't.
Master's not something you call yourself. Other people might call you one day.
Those that do, they like that for financial. It's up in this culture.
What? We can be making money?
When did this happen?
Is
there an email tree?
Alright, I can teach you how to make proper coffee.
Tell you what, if you sign up, you sign up for $9.99 a month, I will tell you how to make money as a master.
There you go.
You got 3 easy payments to that? Yeah, 3 easy payments.
Shipping and handling to $4.95.
For now.
All right. So then how important is rank then? Like, what advantage does rank give if that's the case, if you're always a student?
The rank is, sorry to interrupt,
Nope.
is a goal. It's a motivator for other people, but it's only a self-motivator.
Goal setting actually is great. It's fantastic for people to have something to focus on to move towards. The issue is in martial arts, the goal keeps moving, and then at some point you realize that there was never a post. It just sort of fades, and it becomes the horizon, and then you're like, oh, God.
I need to learn how to run faster.
I find that in teaching kids especially, the ranks are useful as far as like breaking up a curriculum, especially in terms of like ability groups. So like if a kid can't do a flying, spinning, press and kick, whatever, you know, first day, cool, maybe put that at a further rank and work toward that goal, you know, and it'll help give the kid a sense of accomplishment as they move toward something really, really difficult. And hopefully once they get to something really difficult, they're not completely overwhelmed by the accomplishment, the sense of accomplishment. They're looking toward the next horizon, the next goal.
Yeah, that's another point that helps with those levels, is it breaks that elephant down into manageable pieces to eat, you know?
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
you can't shove that whole elephant down your mouth.
And you
right?
know, it's actually
You gotta just take it
really
one bite at a time.
for instructors.
Yeah.
Because I mean,
Yeah.
let's all start thinking about, so what am I teaching you today? It's like, oh,
What day is it?
how do you
Yes, yeah, exactly. Especially in some of, like, my experience with Tai Chi, Qigong, and especially Bagua Zhang, the lack of perceived linear progression, because you have to be able to demonstrate certain physical skills that take time, and with everyone it's different, especially with Bagua and the circle walking and being able to move in a circle. I mean, I spent, 15 years training martial arts before I started doing Bagua, and like to walk in a circle seemed really easy. Right? No problem.
Conceptually.
Conceptually,
No problem.
yeah, my mind was like, yeah, piece of cake, and meanwhile I like tripped over myself so many times and fell flat literally on my face so many times, learning just how to accept the fact that I needed to learn something different and literally start all over again. So my linear progression just exploded and dissolved into like something that wasn't even real anymore in terms of that attachment to what I thought where the goalpost was.
Yeah.
And yeah, no, but it's absolutely a vital tool for teaching kids classes and having like the basic sort of put into digestible pieces, and that's sort of how I present it. But I mean, the way I teach, there are no goals.
I think outside of practical applications like we described, like managing classes and stuff, ranks really aren't very useful unless you lack sort of intrinsic motivation. You need that little sugar cube every time the horse does something great. Then that's fine, and that's good for that, but I don't think it's good for much else outside of that. Yes, Mike.
Mike's got a question. I have a question. How, in your guys' opinion, being trainers and masters and stuff like that.
We just talked about that, Mike.
I'm really sorry. How relevant do you think traditional values are in contemporary martial arts today?
Good question. From the guy who signed my Wing Chun certificate. Stop hiding.
Good question.
So I like the traditional values. I just got straight from my Sifu, and really he always said, when you make friends first, you're always number two. You're not number one to go out and try and be the toughest fighter. Like, no, you're here to be a leader in your community, in your family, and at work, and to live a good life. And basically, when I researched later, like that's basically like a Zen way. From what I understand, that's like the original way that Bodhidharma brought martial arts to the temple was through like a Zen way, and to me that's like being happy with yourself and comfortable in your own skin, and those are the traditional values that I see there, and to be compassionate and understanding to yourself and to others, and to want to benefit your community, and I think those are very valuable. Without those, you can run astray in your training without those values.
Yeah, and that's being demonstrated quite well nowadays.
You lead to injury.
Indeed.
And not a long life, maybe.
Yeah, indeed. And actually building on the idea of injury, I think it goes well beyond just the physical. I find a lot of times as well, because it's absolutely internal. I mean, I find that if you do not reinforce the martial arts with any particular moral milieu or structure of any kind, then essentially all you are doing is creating monsters at that point.
Real monsters.
Real monsters.
People who aren't good.
Indeed.
Without internal reflection, what are you unleashing? And I mean, what I was talking about with freedom before. Our traditional values are all about looking within to the best of our ability, about judgment for who we are. I mean, on ourselves. And this is as much a goal as any physical thing, but it's actually the greater goal. The traditional values, in my opinion, kindness, man.
Yeah.
Like just being kind.
Yeah, love.
Which is rare nowadays too.
Yeah.
You know what all that?
Shut up.
Look
Yeah,
Yeah.
I just thought it was a good question.
It's a very good question.
Yeah, very good question to answer online, because most of the people who are exposed to martial arts, especially from what I've sort of observed, is that this whole they're bombarded constantly by these sort of archetypes in relation to what martial arts is, and that's heavily endorsed sort of matches, and this whole aggressive sort of Colosseum sort of warfare.
I mean, at the same time, though, you could say that every teacher I know will say stuff like martial arts are 90% mental. I mean, my teachers all said that to me, and I was always like, yeah, sure they are. And I went and punched rocks or whatever. But eventually you start to go, yeah, how I think about this changes everything, even from just a combative point of view. I mean, when we teach kids classes, we teach them how to break a board. You're not teaching them to break boards because you need, maybe you need firewood, but that's not usually the point, right? You're usually trying to go, okay, you need to think differently about what's going on here, because you don't believe you can do it. And we need to empower you to be able to believe you can do it. And you have to think about where you're going to put your power and all these things. It all happens on the inside. The external result might be breaking the board, but there's a real change that takes place. And if you do enough things like that, and eventually become self-motivated to do it for yourself, then it's back to that student, teacher, and master thing. You're all of those things. I mean, no one can teach you anything. They can just show you stuff. You have to interpret it and teach it to yourself. And as far as traditional values, the one thing I would add to what our esteemed panel has said is the less popular opinion. Sometimes you need to pick your hands up. There's a time and a place to smoke somebody. There is. And that's a value I think that is kind of sorely lacking in modern society. And I don't mean like the MMA gym, blah, blah, blah. I mean like, how many times have I turned on YouTube and I've seen somebody getting beat up, and that means someone was standing there filming it?
Yes.
Or makes me sick. Like that I cannot stand. It's like, that's why we empower ourselves in our communities with this art. It's not just so we can work on ourselves, that's a huge part of it. But there is the 10% of this. There is. There's a time to pick your hands up. There's demons that need killing. Sure, that's an unpopular opinion, but you know what? It is what it is, man.
And I think along those lines too, there's a need for some toughness.
Yeah.
And not physical toughness, but mental toughness. Yeah, and learning to endure that pain and push yourself through those boundaries.
Totally.
By going to class night after night and getting hit and getting thrown and getting locked.
Frustration.
Yeah, just because it's uncomfortable doesn't mean you have to run from it. Putting up with uncomfortable scenarios and things is part of life.
Precisely. Yeah. Iron body is more than just physical, it's also mental. You have to be able to take a beating mentally all the time.
And I'd add one more thing about having the courage to train with the love too, right? And beyond the mental, there's the emotional training. And in my experience, I've been bouncing for many years in White Ave and here, and most of the time, you know, if you bring that love to people and you show them a little bit of respect, you know, even though they had that demon in them, that could really put things down before they even start a lot of times. And you can support people, you know, and still respect them and keep everybody safe. And yeah, a lot of times it involves bringing your hands up. But then it puts it on a real level for people, and they notice that you're not like some regular person in a fight or flight mode, and they're just like, okay, they take a little second to think.
That you're holding space for them whether or not they believe in it or not.
Yeah.
You're holding that space of loving kindness.
And you give
no matter what they throw at you.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
So then,
Question in the back. We got questions.
oh, we got questions?
Sure.
I didn't see that hand.
Excellent. A question on the preservation of values, so an extension of that. The preservation of the original intent of martial arts, and whether that, or to the extent of its modification over time through government intervention, policing, and changes of politics and policies, and interfering really. I know I'm just a novice in martial arts, but an enthusiast nonetheless. And I know that certain things have changed over time, for instance, maybe, or another loss, maybe jiu-jitsu or ninjutsu, the loss of these traditions over time just because the samurai, it just wasn't passed on. So I'm just wondering, for today, that preservation, and that extends to values, the efficacy, whether something is a display of power versus the actual demonstration of the brutality of certain portions of martial arts. So just wondering of your opinion, being the experts.
Don't say that. Let me quote something that Jason says. If you want to study something, let's say it's butterflies. Most people will get some butterflies and they'll pin them to a board and they'll start studying. That is the state of martial arts today. They're dead. If you want to study butterflies, what do? You grow a garden that attracts butterflies, and you watch them while they're alive. And you can see what they are in with their surroundings. And there's a few live butterflies left, but there's an awful lot of zombies in the martial arts that are just the walking dead. They really are. So I mean, a lot of like what you said is why that exists. I mean, look at the Cultural Revolution. Like there's all kinds of reasons that things are dead. But at the same time, that nothing's completely dead. I mean, there are crouching tigers and hidden dragons all over the planet. There's guys with real stuff. But you're not going to just find them easily, right? You're going to find the McDojo Taekwondo club that everybody stands in line and does their kick and nobody knows why. And that's cool, as long as people are happy and they're getting what they want out of it. But as far as like really passing on an art, the only way, in my opinion, is to try to grow that garden. And that's what we have to do for our students, is we're planting seeds, we're not pounding lessons into them. So it doesn't work.
That's what the school hopefully is.
That's hopefully what this is going to be, is a garden.
Setting up soil and planting
Plenty of
seeds,
fertilizer. And Kung Fu is like a living thing in itself. So it's always living and changing and evolving and adapting to the times, but still surviving, like finding a way to survive. Persecution, you know, survived in the red junk, like pretending to be opera, you know, and so everyone's like, oh, they're not trained in Kung Fu, they're just doing opera. Well, that kept it going for us. And even now, all the constraints around the environment, around governments controlling things, and around economic, you know, capacity and cultural, you know, like I'd love to spend my whole days training, but I gotta feed some kids, you know, so I gotta work all you know, full time. So, but it'll always continue and keep planting those seeds and evolving to the future and creating new traditions, you know, while trying to keep that same root alive, you know.
Absolutely. And I find that relative to preservation of martial arts, if you want to look at it historically, like in Japan, there were samurai who used guns. Like, I don't think the weapons or the changing nature of the battlefield really had that much of an impact. But I mean, it did. But not on like the original. Exactly. Right? Because I think the thing that really changed everything around was when samurai culture was suddenly looked upon as unpopular relative to the coming westernization in Japan. Right. I think that was sort of the thing, was that this sudden abdication of what was considered to be traditional Japanese values now being overthrown by this new idea of what was considered to be proper, this and the other. So,
but it didn't end the tradition.
It did not, absolutely. It did not.
Exactly.
And that's the key. That's the key point. So, in that regard, I think the same thing with our arts. I mean, how many migrants came over to Canada and the United States during the Cultural Revolution and brought their traditions and their families with them as a result? A lot of these arts would not have survived if these people did not bother to brave the waters and and the borders coming over here. So in that regard, life finds a way.
Oh, Jurassic Park.
Oh.
You know, the last thing I'll add to that one, though? There's something really interesting about this panel. We've all got somebody, most likely every one of us, who's of Asian descent, who wasn't racist in our lives. Because otherwise, we wouldn't be sitting here.
Absolutely.
And that speaks to the traditions. That speaks to the compassion and how open people's hearts were. Because, I mean, really, otherwise...
Conditions have to change in face of reality.
That just shows the strength of us.
Can I just add a finishing?
Finish us off.
Having spent 30 years watching the government make policy in my Clark Kent life, government policy making is generally pretty damn stupid. And when it comes to addressing living traditions such as the art forms, be they martial or otherwise, when it comes to government, government cannot control a living thing.
They're trying to do it right now in Colorado, right? They're trying to, specialize people in Qigong.
Oh yeah.
Really?
Legislation, yeah.
Oh yeah, yeah.
They're trying
to evaluating certification level.
Register your hand.
All right, so we had a question in the back.
Question in the back.
Yeah.
Yeah. How does martial arts make you feel connected to others?
Connected to what, sorry?
To others.
I'll take that. The connection with martial arts it's interesting because it doesn't matter what you study. It doesn't. It's the connection when you're working with applications with a partner, someone that you would walk by down the street and probably not give it before you start studying the time of day to. But then you sit down, you're doing applications, or you're going over a form or basics with your shifu or your sihing or even your training partner, and the connection between that is it's more than just saying hi, how you doing. You become a family. And that belonging is. It's a different feeling than having your immediate family, like your next of kin. You have brothers and sisters from different walks of life, and you become tighter. And you start having dinner together, you start understanding each other, and that connection, to me, is on a higher plane, especially when you start teaching a student. And that connection where you see them, they're struggling, and all of a sudden, the move snaps. That connection is where, for me, is what the most important part is.
Being on the mats really equalizes people. It doesn't matter your gender or your ethnicity or your sexuality or your age or your occupation. We all have the same. We all reach points in our training where we have the same frustrations. We all have to start at the same place. The journey's pretty much the same for everybody. And even if you just listen to the panel talk, very, very similar stories from everybody on the panel, very similar points of view, very similar experiences. So when you're on the mats, it's a real equalizer. And when you strip away all of that other stuff, and you just realize how equal you are to another human being, it really just connects you on a level playing field, human to human.
And also, I'd say as well, like understanding yourself through martial arts. You're like, oh, I can only breathe that way. I can only move that way. Oh, I can only think that way. And you're trying to like continually improve. And to do that, you need a certain non-judgmentalness to yourself. So if you're like that to yourself and you have that relationship with yourself, then if I can't judge myself, how can I judge anybody else? Like everybody else because the same circumstances that led them to where they are in their life, and they are who they're supposed to be with their good and the bad, just like I am. So so by understanding myself more, I'm able to understand other people more and have a real relationship with them, like deep instead of just surface.
I can throw something in. You're exploring your limits. And when you're doing this with other people, it actually works in the opposite way of you're becoming vulnerable in front of others. Opening up vulnerability to others is it's the most personal thing you can do. You are showing them your heart. Now that heart doesn't mean, knocking through walls. It's getting to that wall and seeing how far you can go. You're at your most raw. How do you not develop personality or personal interaction that is very close, actually?
I just want to add to that. What I tell our students a lot of the time is you only get one training partner, so try not to break them because you won't get another. With that in mind, and having to, when I was starting out the arts, I kind of had to remind myself that all the time because I did not want to, I had no problem punching flesh, bone, no problem. It's great. But flesh and bone, after a while, after hitting metal and rock and wood, which you had
had nothing to do with it.
Very encouraging.
I was very encouraged.
I don't want to do this fight.
It's written in here, purple crayon.
But after a while, flesh and bone starts to feel pretty welcoming compared to, inanimate objects. So it did, and bearing that in mind, it did force me to have to say, you know what? Maybe I shouldn't have to go full power through my partner. Maybe I should give them a chance to maybe improve themselves. Maybe I should, don't be afraid. Maybe I shouldn't be afraid to be thrown to the mat. Basically, don't be a jerk. And you see that bleeding into the rest of your life eventually. So you take more time to actually get to know people. The better you try to understand where they're coming from. You basically don't be a jerk in the rest of your life. So.
You had a question, Mike?
I did, but I forgot.
Okay, that's all good. So
no, I mean, there was another thing as well. Now we understand, or I understand, what you guys stand for as far as your values are concerned, but for the people on YouTube and the people all over the world, potentially, what would be the overall mission of Red Jade Kung Fu? But the overall mission statement. What are you here to do?
We have a mission statement.
Well,
that's the normal one. Enlightenment through barefisted murder.
Enlightenment through barefisted murder is one, but really the goal of Red Jade is to preserve martial arts through open sharing. No more closed doors, no more secrets, no more walls between styles. It's a place to come and learn martial arts because martial is you. It's about your ability to pursue the things that make you feel better about yourselves. And so there are no more barriers, and that's what Red Jade is trying to do, is tear those barriers down.
It's like what Steve was saying about vulnerability.
Yep.
That's a really powerful word. I mean, I know I'm going to get to play around later with some other scary cats. There's a lot of them here. Let me tell you, when I offer my arm, I know I might not get it back. But I trust them, right? And I have to open myself to it. And, I mean, when I put a school together, that's my whole goal, is that if I'm able to be comfortable and trusting and bare my soul to people, maybe they'll do the same. I love the idea that people can come and hang out. In Preston, we had Friday night fight nights. That everybody's like, wow, fight night. No, people brought beer and pizza. They hung out, and Stacy beat everybody up, and that was it, right?
Repeatedly.
But that's the thing, is because it really did become a real family. And then when we had people come in from other arts like this, everybody just starts to drop their walls and they all become vulnerable, and then you really talk. That's what I mean. I don't want these talks and these panel discussions to be stereotypical. What do you think about that? I mean, that's cool, but I want to know who you are. I want to know what you're about. Why do you like the art that you like? What are you in it for? What's the deal? What do we have in common?
So then, on that note, and speaking of vulnerability, we're going to go across the panel again. What's the greatest flaw in your art?
Easy.
Look at that. That was like almost a universal answer. Yeah.
That's a really simple answer.
I'd say maybe global warming at this point.
That's fair.
But it's so cold out.
It comes from that carbon. If I could actually speak as a non-state member.
You certainly can. It's a little too late for that.
But come on, it's the first time I'm actually face to face with.
Yeah, right.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah.
Right? So from that perspective, the reason why I am here today is because of the principles expressed out loud by everyone here. All of that sharing and collaboration. And one of the biggest weaknesses of my art is the not sharing. Is not talking, is not communicating. And as soon as Neil and I started talking, I was like, pardon my language, but I was like, holy shit. The simple fact that I had found someone else who wanted to share and talk and collaborate and build the way that I wanted to, I was just like, done.
Yeah, if everybody just keeps their doors closed and stand on their own pillars, we'll all fall down. Right?
Yeah. I'm really interested when everyone was introducing themselves how similar we are at the foundation tonight. Yeah. That's really cool. It's almost like we've met before and we're like, okay, what are we going to talk about? No, like it's straight up, from the heart.
Well, we all have a common thread, right?
Yeah.
We all love the arts.
Bodhidharma, right?
There's a good reason for it.
Yes, it's because all of us have the same concept of I can exhaust knowledge in and out. It's like, what's the greatest weakness? No communication.
Yeah,
What's the greatest weakness? Secrets.
Yeah.
The end.
Yeah. That's how stuff dies.
Yep. Yep. That's what it was.
So then, what's your greatest strength?
Oh, that's easy too.
Well, it's the opposite. It's the choice to share, to be vulnerable, to communicate.
Vulnerability is the strength for sure.
Yeah, exactly.
Like with Wing Chun is a female style, and you're supposed to train sensitivity, and I never understood that, right? And I could always, being a big, strong guy, just like muscle my way in there. But then I was living my life like that too, and I just like muscle my way in at the meeting or, with my family or whatever, and it's to my detriment because I couldn't understand fully. So the power of the Wing Chun and the sensitivity is that you get to fully understand. So you fully understand your partner when you train, and then you also have that same feeling to fully understand people, especially when there's a lot of anxiety or emotions are high. Like you can still have that same feeling and be like, okay, I'm trying to understand where exactly you're coming from, where you're feeling and all that. So that's a huge strength.
A better answer than my BS.
One more question from the online folks. So in a similar vein, and some of these may be very similar, but so then what's the biggest struggle or the hardest lesson you've learned as a teacher in training other people?
Not to just give them what they want.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah. So they come in and be like, oh, I want to do footwork. I want to learn the Pakta and the Lata and Chisao and splits and okay, here, this is that, and this is that, and then they have no benefit.
Have you heard of a horse dance?
Yeah.
When do we throw the fireball?
Yeah.
Exactly. I have had that question. I've had that question. It's just like level 39.
That's hardest.
That's over 9,000. Teaching other people has been learning for me that everyone has their own symbolic order. And by that I mean they have their own idea or preconception of whatever they think they're up to. So like let's say they're in a Wing Chun class. So they think they're Donnie Yen.
and then, or at least they're trying to work toward looking like Donnie Yen. And understanding that I have to meet, like I looked at a symbolic order like an array of like different shaped holes, like in a kid's game kind of thing, like blocks and holes. So if they have the Donnie Yen shaped hole for their Wing Chun, I have to at least meet them somewhere on that level to introduce the actual principles of Wing Chun in a sort of Donnie Yen looking kind of way, so that this information will get into that hole, and then it'll start maybe hopefully changing the shape of that hole a bit, and then more data can come in. Yeah, symbolic order was probably the hardest thing for me to learn, to change mine so I can adapt to theirs.
I think for me it was to not project myself onto my students.
Yeah, totally.
And just to let them be their own people and explore things in their own way. And even if I'm sitting in the corner shaking my head thinking, oh my God, what are you doing? Why are you doing it that way? Just to let them have their own journey and their own experience with it.
It's just an outside gate, circle block, boom. It's just this and this and
No one said anything about trig?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, we might want to try and control too much, but it's really like you plant a seed, and you can't control how that plant is going to grow, or when it's going to grow, or how many flowers it's going to have. Like, it's going to do what it's going to do. All you can do is sing to it and water it. Cuddle it.
Were you gonna start singing to us, Stephen?
Tai Chi song, yeah, definitely was. Tai Chi song.
Fair enough. I'm a lumberjack. Oh, wait, wrong. That's the other Tai Chi.
That's the other KR right now.
Awesome. Are there any other questions from the audience? Yeah, in the back.
In Spanish. I was wondering if you view meditation or body position for chi flow more important. As you move through your forms, especially with the different forms that you're all doing, does your body structure tie into the larger river of chi?
Oh,
and so you find that chi exists, and that as you move into chi, then the chi gives you that power to move through things. Or is it through meditation that you attain the sensitivity to perceive the chi that you're already handling?
Yes.
Both.
Yes.
Structure's about health.
You don't have structure, you don't have health.
Meditation gives me the like introspection and the, holding the mirror up to yourself and whittling away the parts that are not good or dysfunctional or you just don't like. The strength or whatever to get through that uncomfortable emotional experience, and then let that extrapolate to other uncomfortable emotional experiences in your waking life. But in terms of the physical movements, especially standing, standing, because you're doing both, you're physically engaged and you're mentally working on yourself. Once those relationships in terms of your posture, your ligaments, your bones, everything are really in good line, or as other people might say, like the chi is really flowing, the movements are that much easier, especially to not injure yourself doing them. And in a way that once you really start flowing in that kind of coordination, they do sort of speak to you a little bit more. And if you're doing it in a kind of meditative state upstairs, you can start unlocking pieces of that form that you didn't know were there beforehand. You're like, oh, this is a back kick. Neat. Yeah, it's the newest thing. You go tell everybody, and nobody knows what you're talking about.
Eureka moments, eh?
Yeah. I always have.
2 o'clock in the morning sleeping right?
Yeah. I forgot to tell him about the packs out. In the middle of the night sweating.
It's all getting that same feeling. So it's the mental. So the mind, the feeling, the body, the spirit is all aligned, and then the breath and the movement of the universe around you is like you feel the chi flowing when that's all lined up together. So you need like kind of everything in sync for that to really feel it. To me,
From my experience, both are equally important because you need to step in and out of each to feel the contrast and to feel the difference of those both spaces, so you can learn each more and more into deeper and deeper spaces, so that they become that unified, balanced space.
I find that if you do not have the mental emotional wherewithal to sit down for 5 minutes and just do absolutely nothing, then other than focus on your breathing, your ability to try to sync your breathing and your posture with your movements is going to be greatly compromised after a while. So, like from the other end of things, not being able to do your physical training too at the same time is also going to be a greater hindrance to your ability to sit and meditate for a longer time. So no, really, you do need to do both in order to experience, as you say, to achieve flowing, because it is, after all, at least the way I understand it now, it's a study of relationships. So the relationship between your state of mind, between your emotional state of mind, between what you're doing with your body relative to its breath, or relative to the breath that you're drawing. So, yeah, yes.
There was another question.
Yeah, we had another question here again.
Yeah, thank you. You seem to have similar opinions about the role of suffering and vulnerability and allowing you to grow. But what do you think is the role of joy and hope in Kung Fu martial arts?
Sorry, I didn't hear that very well. What is the role of joy and hope in martial arts? Is that what you said?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's a balance of the both, and it's realizing that there's going to be suffering and there's going to be joy, and the hope is kind of like strung throughout that. So when you're suffering, you have the hope that, okay, this is nature. Everything in nature struggles and suffers, and I'm no different. So I need to do this, and the suffering will teach me something. Will give me strength, build my roots, build my character. So that gives me hope. All I gotta do is just make it through the best I can, keep breathing, and try not to hurt myself or anybody, right? The best I can. And then when the joy comes, then now it's an opposite type of hope. Like, I can't get too carried away with that joy and then think that suffering isn't ever going to happen and it's in the back now. So it's getting comfortable with that whole cycle and process, and the hope, I guess, throughout it all is that it's growth. It's growth.
I find hope with me, at least in my experience, is just the realization that despite how bad things may be present, are you alive? Yes or no? Are you conscious? Yes or no? And if you can consciously affirm yes, then therein lies your hope. You can now, you can still make moves, you can still make decisions, you can still move towards something. And from there, I believe anyway, there is where you cultivate the joy. Because the ability to progress and to persevere despite all these obstacles and hindrances thrown at you, that is where you will gain your joy. The fact that you kept pushing through. And in that regard, hope is ubiquitous. It's everywhere.
Yeah. I get joy, like the big joy, like you mentioned. I get joy in little tiny things. Like anytime I'm anywhere and I can take full steps without anything in the way, I get a little, because I can do it. The opportunity to train, and I'm like a kid again. It's great. Just being able to train is a huge thing for me. It's great.
And I think when you tear down your own barriers through training, you experience everything a lot more richly.
Yeah.
So, something like a sunset that 99% of people don't even see, you see and you value. So, sure, as much as in training there's these times of suffering, there's also these mundane moments that now become extraordinary because you feel so much deeper.
Somebody else had a... In terms of the large showcase fights that occur, such as UFC, why would you say that Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu versus Japanese Jiu-Jitsu, some of these other major martial arts, like kickboxing, Muay Thai, martial arts that focus more on gross motor skills versus, let's say, more traditional that work on the fine motor skills, such as Wing Chun that look at sensitivity, for instance. So these martial arts that really are stress tested in their modalities and methodologies as they're taught. Why would you say they focus on getting a black belt in that versus some of these other?
It makes more sense. It's easy to understand.
Like, how are these cage fighters? How are these cage fighters when they're 50 and 60 years old?
Yeah. Well, and I think the progression's a little more linear and easier to see. You know, like if you train Muay Thai boxing, you know you're getting better because you're fighting. Simple as that. Which is one of the checks and balances that is missing in traditional martial arts. And there's a lot of reasons for that. And it's not entirely missing, but that's a whole other conversation, really. But I think it makes more sense. If you were a brand new person who's never done martial arts and you're interested in learning to defend yourself, I mean, you're not going to go and hang with Kelly and stand there with your arms around a tree for an hour. That doesn't make any sense, right? But it's. I think human beings, though, we tend not to play long games. We really don't. We want, especially in this culture now, we want it right now.
Plus, I think
that's a major problem too. We want it right now. No one's really willing to do the longevity. Kung Fu and most traditional martial arts is about longevity. So it's that perfect cup of tea that's brewing, right? It's only going to taste better after age 5. So longevity is the most important.
I think having a.
But we definitely need to be tested. I think that's the problem.
So then, what's the best way to test your arts then?
Qigong. Wing Chun and sticky hands, because it's safe. It's safe, but it's very, very effective and fast.
And it gives you results right away. You know. Like, oh, I got hit in the chest.
And you can, when I was bouncing for many years, it was automatic. I had one guy, he tried to sucker punch me, and I'm just like, ugh. And then I look at him, and he tries to throw another punch at me, and I just, one move, auto. It wasn't even my head, it was my spinal cord. And the guy spun right around and punched his friend in the face. Shoved them both out. 99% of the time too, when you get that testing, our Sifu said you need the Qisao because then you get confidence. So then you're not scared of the punch.
Realistic.
Because you're so close. Because you're so close and you're constantly like in that zone, right? When I saw fights on the street, in movies it's always like far away and you're kicking far away, but on the street it's like that for 2 seconds and then you're close. And usually guys are fighting, wrestling. They wrestle in our culture, right? Or hockey fight guys. So it always gets close. So we train that close all the time. 2 hands in, fists flying by our face, and we do it in a safe way, so people don't get like the nerve jet damage too. And that gives you the confidence then to just even throw your hands up. And sometimes I've had a group of guys fighting, and when groups like would fight you, like one time a fight spilled out at Bar Wild, and it's just closed down the street on White Ave, you know, just everyone's fighting. There's like 50 guys fighting the bouncers there, and I see a buddy of mine getting ganged up by like 10 guys on him, like in the corner away from everybody else. So I run to help him. And I push all the guys away, and then they're just right all in front of me, nobody in my back. And I remember, oh man, there's like 10 guys now that are just fighting. And like, I gotta be ready like I've never been ready before. And I gotta be ready to like put guys down like right away. And I remember thinking that, and I put my hands up, and it's like, anybody that comes in here, they gotta go down. And as soon as I put my hands up like that, every single one of them jumped back. And it stopped the whole fight. Okay? And that's the real power. Yeah, the confidence. That's right. And it comes out. You can't fake that. It comes out from all the training.
That's where the fine motor skill comes in. You develop such an awareness of your own body. You develop such an awareness of what you can do, what you know you can do, without even having to think about it. You know, because that's one of the barriers or the bridges between gross motor skills and fine motor skills, is that sensitivity and that awareness where you know you can rely on your instinct because you train those fine motor skills. to such a degree that you have no concern as to what comes at you. And that to me is a huge difference.
I would add, in a very general sense, that you need to spar.
Yes.
You have to. A lot of Chinese schools really lack that. And then you get a lot of magical thinking about, oh, I've learned all this stuff, I've done this so long, I should be amazing. And then you throw them into a tournament or whatever, and they just get wiped out by the Muay Thai guy like they should, because they've never sparred anybody. I mean, like the teacher that Lauren and I shared, we fought all the time. It was actually more sparring than it was learning stuff. It was just, here's one technique, go see if you can kill each other with it. But you get very comfortable with it eventually, right? But that's the kind of the check and balance system that is still safe, because that's in your family. You know, no one's trying to hurt each other. I would recommend that even before you tried to go to tournaments and spar unknown people. But if you're not sparring at all, you're just going to go get wiped out. Let alone if you actually had to lift your hands on somebody, right? And I mean, the way the modern sporting of martial arts works, it's really easy to go and fight unknown people safely. I mean, that's what I tell my guys when we go to a tournament. If they're really freaked out and stuff, it's like, you get out of the limo, you walk into the tournament, right, Mike? Mike was a little bit freaked out, right? And I remember being like, dude, there's paramedics here.
You'll be fine.
You'll be fine. You could just see him go, well, yeah, I guess that's true. There are paramedics here. Anyway, I'll whoop some guy, right? But that's where that confidence and stuff comes from. If you don't have that, it's not going to happen. And Guinness also gives you that. But yeah, if you don't spar, you're killing your own.
Absolutely. Definitely needs to be balanced with the right values.
Absolutely.
So you can't just go spar and spar and spar. You have to realize that person you're sparring with is just as valuable as you. Like, they're an extension of you. They're your family. They're here to help you, and you're there to help them. You got to work together that way.
It's not competitive, it's cooperative.
It's cooperative
sparring.
sparring.
You know, there's another element to this that I had to learn the real hard way, and that is, you better have an instructor who has some knowledge of basic medicine. And I mean, and especially in our art, it better be, you know, it has to be good, honest to God, balanced Chinese medicine, because you can fight and then break that. Or the earlier question was, you know, what's one of the things about the hardest things about teaching your students? My thought was, how hard do I push them? Yeah. Because I've broken myself and I've watched others break, and I try to teach them in the method of what violence is, what he's talking about, real terrifying violence.
Kidneys turn on.
And sparring is great, but you've got to teach them in a way that when it takes off, they need to be able to settle for a moment, settle the mind.
Give us one.
Balance is important.
Medicine is another one thing. I think it's also to know that everything that everyone on this panel has just said is not particularly lucrative. Relative to the world of, you know, prize fighting, professional fighting.
The question about why UFC is so popular.
Exactly.
It's not.
Yeah, I mean, okay, bear this in mind. We live now, here we are in the 21st century, where now the man who's considered to be the best in professional boxing is being coaxed into going up against guys in mixed martial arts who have never done professional boxing a day in their life, and people are surprised when the professional boxer wins a professional boxing.
Like, come on.
Give us one more question, Jared.
All right, so one last question, just kind of wrap things up, and then we'll be done for the evening. We'll have just one more thing to say at the end. But here's the question: so, if your students could change one thing about you, and we're going to go across the panel.
This is totally Jason.
Yeah, what would it be? We'll start with.
Why don't we start with you guys? You got any? Yeah, come on, lay it on me.
If there's one thing, I don't think I can summarize.
You can't summarize one thing.
I have. But yeah, but sir, if you know, we're talking about the ways that we've had to adapt how we teach and how we approach our students, and how things have changed from the traditional days to these modern ways. What's one thing that you think your students would want to see changed in how you teach your arts?
The most common thing I get asked is if I'll go harder.
Oh, really?
That's a common thing.
Yeah.
I'm too nice a lot, apparently. I've had lots of people, oh, you know, no, you can lay it on me, and it's like, well, yeah, okay, here. No, I need to be a bit harder. I mean, that's actually why I have this tattoo. It says, devil's hands, Buddha's heart. And everybody tell it, and they're like, oh, well, that's so nice about the Buddha heart. It's like, that's totally not what it's about. Every time I pick my hands up, it's like, oh yeah, be a bigger dick. Okay. because you know, the harder I go with my guys, the better they get, right? And it's a good request because, I mean, for me, the pendulum really swung. I was a different cat when I was 20 than I am now. And I wasn't the most fun guy to be around, and I did a lot of testing of my art that involved drinking establishments and things. And yeah, I was like, man, there's got to be better ways to do this. And I wanted to change who I was as a human being, so I started to get a little bit more chill. But yeah, the pendulum swung a little too far. And I need to kind of bring it back so that the arts that I do have that I can teach are being passed on with enough power, if you will, so that people can get a taste of it. So I would say that's my biggest one. I'm not mean enough. How about you? You're not mean enough, right?
Instructor Bo coming again.
I think what my students would want me to change about myself, maybe to have the ability to digitally upload all my knowledge and experience directly into their brain.
I got that recently. I was going, oh, yeah, damn. Yeah.
Well, it's like, well, again, I say that mainly just because I don't know how to, I don't know how to get someone to do the thing out of their own volition, but beyond, like, you know, you can drag a horse, you can pull a horse to water, but you can't make him drink. I find, personally speaking anyway, that to be the biggest thing is like, all right, here's the push-ups, here's the punching, here's the way you can make your punches better for push-ups. You know, I don't know how to encourage you to get better at wanting to do.
I can't make you want to do things.
Exactly. So yeah, I guess I could be a bit meaner, but I honestly don't see how that would really, you know.
I don't think that's
We'd need a new ceiling.
I don't think that's What about you, Steve?
Well, I don't know. I think as I'm analyzing things, it would be quite the list. But I mean, truthfully, I actually mostly focus with people who have chronic issues, chronic pain, chronic illnesses, because it's actually something that I deal with. But it also prevents me from being as mean as what, you know, everyone else here is going to CP Neil and CP Simone is saying. I don't push them because I'm always scared of breaking them, and I think that they would change my fear. Okay, you've got to push them. You've got to be pushed.
What you tell?
Probably the biggest complaint is how do we learn this faster?
Yeah,
I'm like. And I literally got that. Is there a way we can like upload your brain into my brain? Because how do I get all of your stuff into my brain? I'm going.
It's fast lessons.
Yeah. There's faster ways. It's just like, how's your health care?
Really?
Yeah. Have you seen the 36 chambers?
I don't know. No,
Are you American?
Yeah. How much money you get? I don't know. It's I push my students. I make them do a lot of core, basic hard work, like the standing, like half an hour of it now. And I make them do the basics religiously. And they begin to see the real meat and potatoes of what is in it. And then they start to get it. They're like, oh my God, can we like learn this and this and this and this? It's like, how can we learn faster? I'm going,
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like, how many classes do you want a week? It's like, how much, you know, yeah, it's just like, can we learn faster?
Yeah, like I feel now it's sort of like, how do I convince you to make this a part of yourself? Because there's nothing I can, because there's nothing I can do beyond like getting you to do it for yourself. You know?
What do you say?
I think my youngest students would probably want me to let them play more games.
I think some of your older ones
games that don't involve much breath.
There are other games? Oh, right.
How old are you?
And I think being meaner is probably something that my older students would probably want me to do more of. Giving them war stories of their own to sort of not just share but brag about, like, oh, my teacher punched us in the belly while we were doing sit-ups, you know, or whatever. I have the same problem, not mean enough in the right areas, and then other times I'm too mean because I'm hovering over you for 20 minutes, making sure every little tiny thing is perfect, when I should just let you go do this in a corner and come back.
So that's a real tough question because I think my students are like, oh, you're good.
I can see this like
wish I had better jokes, eh? It was fine, but the jokes too. Well, I think maybe someone like to stick more, to actually stick more with me if they could. Watch me stick more, and sometimes you're sitting there too much, like just teaching, and you got to watch everybody, make sure everything's chill and good.
Yeah, that's.
So it's hard to kind of just be like, okay, you get yourself in there too, and probably I've heard. Yeah, exactly. So stick with them more, eh? What do you want to stick more?
Well, my counter to the whole thing is, what the hell kind of student has any knowledge of what should be improved on?
Improved on a teacher.
So if you go to class and you're trying to tell the teacher how to what should be better, then you should like this guy in class.
He's been punched enough.
He just hasn't been punched enough. That's okay.
Our Steve was very good that way.
Oh, very excellent point.
I got a couple of guys that like to go hard, and I got a couple of people in the class that don't quite want to go hard. And you recently, Neil, wrote something about bringing traditional back, and for those who want it. And it kind of made me think that not everyone that takes this wants to go hard.
Almost nobody.
Exactly. And you know, when I started martial arts, I wanted to go hard. It was like the sense of accomplishment. So I think my big thing, my students would say, is if I would be able to divide myself up and have a separate hardening class or conditioning class. We're all in conditioning. I love conditioning. It's so important. It's almost a lost art in itself. And I drive my students. I have a student right now plucking nails.
Nice.
And he's fantastic because
means he's pulling them out of a board.
Yeah, and just so you know, he's got their 4-inch nails. They're driven down 2 inches right now into a 4x4, and they're spiral. And he's
so the guy obviously needs a hobby.
Yeah. He just had a baby girl, so that's so I gotta be able to. I guess I would have to differentiate myself. Going, okay, we're gonna go hard, and then we won't go as hard, right? Because you're here for a different reason. So everyone joins martial arts for different reasons. Not everyone wants to go and learn to kick ass. They want to get fit or cardio or whatever. So that's my big thing. Is I gotta be able to take my horse blinders off. Have more of an open perspective on people. Because I'm like, what? You don't want to bang arms? You don't want to get hit in the stomach to learn to take a shot? What's wrong?
Sometimes you accidentally do that too. You're like, how's it going?
Over here, and you're like, huh?
The secret handshake say something.
So yeah, that's my issue. How about you, Tom?
So I'm in a little bit of a unique situation in that now I teach exclusively for a private K-12 school, and it's a pretty upper class community with a lot of kids who have never had a day of hardship in their life. And they would probably much rather me to soften up.
get another job.
I've got, there's a big population now in the school that if they see me in the hallway, they'll take a different hallway. Ask me in the hallway. The other day I was walking through, I was walking through the school the other day with this stick that's like a telephone pole. I'm just walking out with it on my shoulder. One of the teachers says, "What are you doing?" I said, "Looking for kids that aren't in class." And yeah, there's a big group of them now that won't take. It's kind of unique. The school that I'm in, from grade 4 to 12, it operates like a university, and all classes are electives.
Wow.
The kids elect what classes they'll take. And not very many of them elect to come to the dojo. they probably wish I was like nothing.
They should just make that dojo mandatory.
Well, the great thing is it's mandatory to K3.
Oh, nice.
Oh, that's a magic phone again. And the reason why it's mandatory to K3 is to teach them the life lessons.
They're like, can't wait till grade 4.
Especially now because the year's counting down, and I see some of them look at the calendar. And they're counting.
I would have
30 more days.
Yeah. I know, right? I know, man.
Yeah,
you got 1,000 more clients before June, Billy.
Here, have a long.
Well, I think unless anybody has anything that really you want to hear all these people talk about,
That house fire is going
then
pretty good now.
maybe we should call it. We've been at it a couple of hours.
Oh, we got one
James,
last question from James St. James, the Portuguese painter who does not cut corners. He brushes them.
You got that right. So, secret to martial arts, go.
Oh,
Training.
jeez.
Hard work.
Perseverance.
I'm trying to be facetious, but that's
A small but strong masochistic streak.
That's a good answer.
Yes.
With a little bit of sadism.
Yeah.
That's way more than teaching.
That's the teaching part. You
learn that when you're teaching.
Yeah, as a student, but that's actually very, very true. As a student, you do kind of need to take as I'll say, a sick joy in wanting to hurt yourself. Or at the very least, not hurt yourself, but at least be conditioned, endure pain.
You endured the bitter. You love it. You love the taste of the bitter.
Exactly. You love the taste of the bitter. As a teacher, you have to develop a taste for seeing that pain make them stronger. Seeing the fire that you're throwing onto them, forging them. That is the ore. That is the metallurgy. So turning wrought iron into steel.
Beam ferrous metal there.
Non-ferrous.
Oh no,
that's a discussion for another day, probably.
That's another master's tea.
That's another master's tea.
So remain a hopeful skeptic.
I just want to thank everybody for coming. It's actually been a really good night. If you haven't had a chance to come and see me over at the desk, because anybody who's a guest here, sign up and leave your email with me, because what we're going to be doing is sending out some free passes to all of you, just as to come and check out a couple of classes and check things out on your own and decide if you want to become members or whatnot. Or if you're already ready to dig in, you can just visit our stuff on our webpage. I mean, there's no pressure there. It's all there. If you want to sign up, sign up. But there's free classes if you want to drop off your email. And other than that, there's still snacks. There's still tea for a little bit, and we're just going to start.
Yeah, I know. Just hang out.
I want to say one thing before we go. I want to thank all the full-time students who came from all 4 corners of the globe to essentially put this entire place together for us. James, the Portuguese painter, who does not cut corners.
Gotta keep driving that in. It's okay.
Get on the business from London, Ontario. Mark came all the way from actual where the actual London is, but not London proper.
But where
he came from Sussex.
Okay, mine has less crime.
Well, less night crime.
Less night crime.
Less painting crime. Okay, all right. Dan came all the way from Chicago, and these guys have been here busting their butts, painting, lifting heavy things, cleaning,
doing all kinds of things.
Damien came all the way from Chicago too, and we're really happy that he did, because now we have somebody to beat up.
And we're going to run, I run a full-time program every year where we'll train 40 hours a week. And that's actually why these guys are here. Is now that we have a school to do it in, we're going to start training tomorrow.
Tonight.
Tonight.
No one's
All we gotta do is move the chairs, yeah.
Lock the doors. This is, you guys all got partners now?
Let's go. Thanks everybody for coming. Really appreciate it. Good stuff. Mingle, drink, have fun, be
Oh, this is why I can't have nice things.
That's why we can't have nice things.
But the good news is finished.
It's still working.